We're on live. We're on live. All right, I hope you guys are ready. We've got a tasty live stream coming up. We're going to talk about some things you might want to talk about, some things you might want to hear about, things you might not want to hear about. Let's let the list populate. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope this morning finds you well. All right. What's goody, Wayne? What's goody, Julio? Shout out to y'all. Gonna let this giant populate. All right, what's good, Tone? What's good, Isaac? You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the welterweight division. Let's talk about these goddamn welterweights. Let's do that. Let's talk about the welterweight division. I want to say that the welterweight division is a division that is mostly dominated by American fighters, right? This is a testament to the American boxing scene. It is. If there is any reflection of where boxing is in America today and the American boxing scene, if any division out there really reflects where it's at, it's the welterweight division. You understand? It's the welterweight division in the sense that the American fight fans aren't actually on the same page with each other. They're not. I mean, they're not. The American fight fans are divided. See, the Brits, when it comes to Joshua and Fury, they're a fan of. They want to see Joshua fight Fury. Shout out to you, JD. Right on time. Right on time. I see you, Mark. I see what you're doing. All right. But I do want to say he's not doing that, Mark. That's not going to happen. But I do want to say that if there's any division out there that reflects where the American boxing scene is, it's the welterweight division because it's dominated by American fighters. But the difference between welterweight and heavyweight, right, is that Fury's fans want him to fight Anthony Joshua. And Anthony Joshua's fans want him to fight Tyson Fury. They're on the same page as far as the boxing, that what they want out of that division is that fight. Whereas at 147 pounds, a division that is mostly dominated by Americans, you have Americans that are perfectly okay with Terence Crawford being ignored. And they'll sit there and argue with you and make excuses as to why he should continue to be ignored. You don't hear, shout out to Mark. We're going to talk about the American boxing scene in this live and why America is a detrimental fan base to boxing. That's right. That's what we're going to talk about.
But I'm not allowed to talk about that because I'm from Europe and it'll be seen as hate.
No, God damn it, Mark. God damn it.
You know it's true.
God damn it. Because when I see Keith Thurman get away with what he gets away with, and he's not pelted by popcorn, peanuts, and shoes, I think to myself, this is the reflection of the American boxing scene. This is the reason the welterweight division is the way that it is because it's dominated mostly by Americans. The only division you see where one of the best fighters, the fans are actually okay with one of the best fighters being ignored, is the division where it's dominated mostly by Americans. There's no Ukrainians, there's no Mexicans, there's no Puerto Ricans in that division holding world titles. You understand? It's a division that really is dominated by American fighters. But it's a division, it's the one division I see where people don't want the best to fight the best. They don't.
That's sad, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Battle rifle. What do you got to say about that?
Well, you got to be careful with throwing those peanuts. Remember what happened with SpongeBob and that clown?
Yeah.
Okay, let me be serious. Uh, um, I think honestly, it's just that people will buy into a certain side, and as I've been saying that for the longest, is it's all about for them taking sides and thinking that it's somebody else's fault when I adopt at least you met Doc, right? Yeah, Doc was on here.
I remember Doc. I know Doc.
Yeah,
I know Doc.
Doc is on the philosophy: if a fight is not made, then you blame everyone. You don't just blame one specific side. And I adopt that philosophy to this. If a fight is not being made, then everybody's at fault. It's not just one particular side. It's not
But see,
Terence Crawford.
I don't agree with that battle because it's not. Look, shout out to Virtuoso. Let me I was actually in the middle of going down the rabbit hole on Ring IQ Boxing memes on IG when I got this notification. Shout out to you, Virtuoso. See, I can't. You can't be aware of the situation and say that there is blame to assign on all sides when it is obvious by now, and I've pointed it out enough times, that Bob Arum works with everybody, bro. He works with everybody. There's nobody out there that he don't work with. He works with Frank. He works with Eddie. He works with Oscar. He even worked with Al for Wilder versus Fury. So I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that somehow it's Bob Arum's fault.
But he also said, he also expresses his disdain for working with Al Heyman too.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, if you're letting a rift, right, get in the way of business, and two, it's not even about that at the end of the day, because what Al is doing is protecting his investments. That's literally what he's doing. He doesn't believe in those guys enough that he would let them fight this guy. If it's anything, it's that. If it's anything, it's that. I'm not going to have one of my guys go do Top Rank a favor and make my fighters accessible to a top rank fighter. That's what it is.
So
for losing to a top rank fighter, I could just have my guys fight each other and lose to each other, and it doesn't hurt my brand.
But Ranky, that's too easy though. Like, here's the thing: we've seen fights that need to be made, but a lot of the times they're under a lot of smoke and mirrors. A lot of this person not pushing this person on the side of the street and whatnot. Here's the thing though: there's a lot of times where a fighter could have made a fight happen, but they're not putting together the right effort, or the promoter, or maybe the managers or whatnot. So I blame both sides. That's my thing. It's not just
and I don't battle. You're not giving me examples of how Bob Arum is stifling the Crawford fight. You're not
stifling the Crawford fight. You talking about between Errol Spence?
I'm talking about between Crawford and anybody, to be completely honest, because I don't expect it's like I could hold him accountable, right? I could hold Spence accountable because according to him, he doesn't need a tune-up fight. According to him, that's his own words, not mine. I didn't put those words in his mouth. He said that. He said he doesn't need a tune-up fight. He said he didn't break any bones. He says he's in tip-top shape, and he says that he's a savage. He said that he doesn't need a tune-up fight. All right, well, if you're in tip-top shape, then what's your excuse for not fighting Crawford? Why are you fighting Danny Garcia? Danny don't have a belt. What do you win out of fighting Danny Garcia? Danny's not a pay-per-view attraction. He's never been on pay-per-view. Danny has no big... Go ahead, Mark.
What he wins is more money before eventually cashing out on a marination process. Battle. That's exactly what Julius is saying, though. It's a marination process.
Yes.
And that's best case scenario. It's marination. Best case.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then why hasn't Crawford gotten the fights with any of these top welterweights yet?
Because Al Heyman doesn't want to let him have fights with any of those top.
But is that only on Al Heyman? Because you remember we was talking about the Sean Porter situation. When I can admit they both ducked each other, at least going on what they're saying.
First, let's be mature here. If these two guys are saying, the both of them are saying the same thing, then nobody's ducking anybody. Because I don't think that Sean Porter's afraid of anybody, and I don't think that Crawford's afraid of anybody. So to use the word ducking would imply that they're afraid to fight each other. Well, no, that's not the case. That would be like saying, hold on. That would be like saying that Shakur Stevenson is ducking Jamel Herring because he said he doesn't want to fight him. That's a last resort.
No, I'm not. Here's the thing, Ring IQ. You're never really going to expect because, like, you from New York. You meet a lot of fighters. You don't. It doesn't come easily for me, or at least for you, to expect another man to be afraid of another man. So I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole and expect that when Sean Porter wakes up in the middle of the night screaming, having a bad dream, he's thinking about Crawford. That's not what I'm doing. I'm thinking that sometimes he can look at another fighter and say, "Hey, man, this dude is actually really good. Let me get all my chips on the table before I cash out and fight him. I'm gonna fight him last." That's exactly what Errol Spencer's doing. He can see the skills that Crawford has, and then he wants to fight him last. He's
But
made that very adamant.
But this is what I'm going to tell you. All right. It goes back to what I just said about the heavyweight division, right? If you ask the Tyson Fury fans, they don't have any aversions to Tyson Fury fighting Anthony Joshua. They're not going to sit here and tell you why he shouldn't fight him. If they had it their way, the Joshua fight would be next. And the same is true of the Joshua fans. If you talk to the Joshua fans, they want that Fury fight. They want it. And if they had it their way, they'd have that Fury fight next. The welterweight division is the only division where you have fans advocating against the biggest fight and the best fight the division has to offer. They'll try to talk up a Danny Garcia fight like Danny Garcia did something special or important in the welterweight division. I'm pretty sure they're going to talk up Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman wants a Spence fight all of a sudden. They'll talk up whoever they have to talk up because they talked up Mikey Garcia, and that was pointless. The guys that talked up that fight didn't even buy it. That's the facts, bro. That's the facts. So when you got a bunch of guys, or when the division is basically comprised of all American fighters, that means that the fan bases are all American. It's an all American fan base. They're not on the same page because where Crawford fans want to see Crawford versus the PBC stable, the PBC fans, they don't want that. They don't want that. They will advocate against it.
I also want to add another thing. This is not a rebuttal, but this is just like saying that, I think we're long past the days where fighters will admit that they're afraid of another fighter. Like, because when you look back in the days, like, I think I can remember an interview with George Foreman that he said he admitted he was afraid of two fighters in his whole career. Big George Foreman. It's as funny as that sounds. He was afraid of a guy who was not that much smaller than him, but you could see, like, once they stand head to head, it's kind of smaller than him. That was Joe Frazier, and he was afraid of Sonny Liston, his sparring partner. So, like, I think it's funny how Big George said that. Sugar Ray Leonard also admitted that he was afraid of Tommy Hearns. I mean, well, not afraid. He was intimidated by him. The guy was 6 feet tall. So I think we're long past the days where a fighter will actually admit that, hey, I was afraid of a certain fighter. Like, I think we're
Battle. At least be fair enough to say that they said those things when they retired.
I'm fair. I said it wasn't a rebuttal.
And at least be fair enough to say those. At least be fair enough to mention that those fighters actually fought those fighters. George actually fought Joe,
and that was my point. I was saying fighters were usually humble enough to admit when they were scared and be like, I'm going to bite the bullet anyway.
There are fighters who are humble enough to say they'd lose to people they never fought against. Look at Mike. Mike said his entire career he could never beat Muhammad Ali.
But that's his idol. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but that's not a parallel for what we're looking at here because you're talking about fights and fighters that actually fought each other. We're talking about fighters that haven't fought each other, and in all likelihood,
probably won't.
Fight each other. They probably won't. I'm not going to sit here and say that, George was afraid of Joe. It didn't cost us the fight, though, did it? No, George fought Joe.
It wasn't like I said. I think we're past the days where a fighter would just, actually explain that. Like, I'm intimidated by a fighter, or usually they're going to blame it on, Keith Thurman with his toe or his ankle or his elbows, and I mean, or you not on the side of the street. That's usually what it's going to boil down to. So we're past it.
Tony was afraid of El Jefe. He told Marcos Villegas that he was scared of that guy, but he actually showed up to fight him. Tony, he's on the show here often. He was scared of El Jefe. WBC ordered a fight between them. And Marcos Villegas asked him, "Tone, are you afraid of El Jefe?" He said, "Yeah, but I'll fight him." All right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real stuff going on out here. All right. Look, this is what I'm trying to communicate. The British boxing scene is booming because the British boxing scene has all the elements to keep it healthy. It has a paying public that is demanding fights and pouring money into the sport. But if you ask, and more importantly, if you ask a British fight fan, whether they're a Fury fan or a Joshua fan, they both want the same thing. They both want the fight. They want that fight. They're not going to sit here and argue with you why it shouldn't happen. They want that fight. The welterweight division is one of the only divisions I see where people will argue with you why a fight shouldn't happen. Oh, no, he's on the wrong side of the street. Yo, look, Fury and Wilder on different sides of the street. They are. But they fought.
And that's why it's important for both sides to agree to it. It's important for both sides to put their best foot forward. Sorry.
Well, battle. You already know what side isn't agreeing to fight and what side is. You know that already. You've seen, like, at this point, if you want to pretend that you don't know, that's your own prerogative, because we all saw what Errol Spence said. He laid out a 4-fight plan given to him by Al Heyman. He said all of this on camera. So if you haven't seen it,
Here's my thing, though. Here's my thing. I don't believe, at least not fully, that all the other welterweights had that exact plan. I believed at one point there was interest in them fighting Errol Spence or Terence Crawford, but there was like, let me do this over here. Let me try to cash out my chips, my marbles before I fight Crawford. Like eventually they lost in their careers. I thought eventually they was going to be like, let me fight Crawford because I want a big payday again because I lost money. But it ended up changing. It ended up throwing a curveball in their career. So like I said, it's not just one side. In my opinion, like it's I think it's a combination of that.
I don't see a combination of that. What I see is an outfit. Who for years now, when forced into a situation that they have to work with someone else, 9 times out of 10, they do whatever they have to do so that they don't work with someone else. You had Peter Quillen throw his WBO title in the air because Rock Nation won the purse bid and Korobov was his mandatory. What do? You have him throw the title in the air to fight for a trinket title, the WBA regular. That ain't even, that's not the near past, you understand? That's a couple of years ago, right? Leo Santa Cruz is in the process of ironing out a contract to fight Rigo. What does Al Heyman do? He buys out Leo's contract. He guides him away from that guy. All right? This is what's really going on.
But
now, I get the impression that you want to make excuses for the PBC, and I don't see why when this is an established track record.
I assure you that is not what I want to do. I just want to give most of these guys the heat because they're stalling out the fight. It's not, I don't think it's just I don't want to pick sides and be like, oh, it's all Al Heyman fight. No, I don't want to do that. I want to give.
This is the other thing. The truth is the truth. It's not about picking sides. It's about being on the side of the truth. Sometimes the truth requires you to point a finger.
But
that's reality.
I can admit, as a boxing fan, that's usually what it is. I mean, at least now it is. It comes down to picking sides. So I don't want to fall down that rabbit hole of thinking that I'm picking sides. But
listen,
I mean, you can have our opinion.
That's not a rabbit hole. If Errol Spence was on camera and he told the boxing world that Al Heyman gave him 4 names and none of them were Terence Crawford's name,
we're not just talking about Errol.
But that is what we're talking about. We're talking about the welterweight division, how it's dominated by Americans, and how Americans.
I'm saying we're not just talking about
each other.
We're not just talking about Errol Spence, though. Like I said, that's we're talking about other fighters. There's other fighters in the welterweight division.
All right, I'm going to let some of the other guys get in on this. All right, Base the Kid, what do you think about it, man? All right, Base the Kid fell asleep. All right, Intangible, what do you think about it, man? What do you got to say about it?
At this point, I don't care about Spence Crawford. I really don't. If the fight happens, cool. But at the same time, we've already pretty much, the marination has already failed. I mean, who knows if Crawford is past his prime already, and who knows if Spence is never going to be the same after the car accident. Another fucking example of marinating a fight failing, potentially.
I'm going to ask you a question, and this is not the blame game because we're having a discussion. I honestly blame the PBC for this because they're good for it. Who do you blame for this fight not happening? Because it would be naive to sit there and say, well, I'm going to ride the fence so that I don't blame Al Heyman. There's always a guilty party. Who do you blame for the fight not happening?
I think the stem of all of this is probably the PBC and their structure in general.
All right. I'm going to go around the panel with this. Mark, who do you blame?
Hello. Who do I blame?
Who do you blame?
Boxing fans.
I do too. I like that.
Them too, yeah.
I like that. That's a good. That's a good pull counter. He got you on the ropes battle. He blames the boxing fans.
What?
You're a boxing fan. You're a boxing fan.
Well, I gotta say though, I don't think the fans will ever be in any sort of agreement to, at least the method of how fights occur and who to demand to make the fight. I really don't.
Here's my thing, though. This is why I try. Look, you can have your opinion, and we're not always going to be on the same page. I can fully understand that. I explained when I first started my argument that I blame all sides. It's not me. It's not me saying that. Well, just Terence Crawford. No, I'm blaming Al Heyman. I'm blaming Bob Arum. I'm blaming all of it. I blame the fight fans too.
And what capacity is Bob Arum responsible? You have to quantify. No. Hold on. Wait. If you're gonna assign blame, there has to be a reason you're doing it. You have to quantify it. What did Bob Arum do that was not conducive towards making this fight?
I said that earlier, Ring IQ. I said if you're not coming to the right agreement, I'm going to be like, you're part of the problem too.
Okay, how can you come to the right agreement when the opposing side won't come to the table with you? There are no negotiations. There have been no negotiations between Top Rank and the PBC for fights for Terence Crawford. There's no negotiation process because the fighters don't want to fight.
I would still put them at fault, Ring IQ. I'm not just going to just give you the leg way just to be like, well, they didn't want to come to the table, so that's. I'm
going to tell you what, Battle. This is what I'm going to say. Because you're taking the stance that you're taking that it's everybody's fault, right? That's what you're saying. I'm not gonna put it all on Al. It's everybody's fault. This is the reason that the welterweight division is a fucking dud. Because American fight fans don't want to see those fights. They don't want them bad enough. They don't. They don't.
No. Okay,
no. Tell me, you can't have it both ways. You're playing the fence. You're saying, oh, it's everybody's fault that the fight isn't happening. So you're not going to put it on Al. And even though he has most of the welterweights, right? You're not going to put it on him. You have statements that corroborate it's his side that is expressing the most resistance, but you won't hold him accountable for it.
Ring IQ. I already explained it. I give him blame for that. Here's the thing, though. How is that an example of me trying to play it both ways, or at least
you're assigning Bob Arum for having done. You're assigning blame to Bob Arum.
Okay, here's my thing.
For doing what?
Here's my thing, Ring IQ. Let's just say, for example purposes, that I want to sell cars. If I can't sell you a car, is it your fault that the car is not being sold?
That's not an adequate parallel.
So let's say I'm buying a gun and I'm gonna kill somebody.
No. That's not no. Here's the thing, though. If you're trying to
monetize this video and Intangible just messed it up.
No. Here's my thing, Ring IQ.
Damn it, my bad, bro.
If I'm trying to get a fight to happen, I need to bring the right bargaining chips. Here's the thing: if I can't sell you the fight, then is it your fault that you didn't buy it?
No, that's not an adequate.
Hold on.
Mark, all right, you make sense of this, okay?
Right.
Mark, go ahead.
To the boxing fans, Spence and Crawford is sold. There you go. Over.
Can I say this? What you're saying, Battle, literally makes no sense. You know why? Because boxing fans weren't asking for Spence versus Garcia. At the time that they put Spence versus Porter together, you know what they were asking for? It wasn't Spence versus Porter. It was Spence versus Crawford. Okay, now they're putting together Danny Garcia, right? And we know what the circumstances are, but we're talking about the boxing fans and the demand that is not there. Because the boxing fans are perfectly okay letting Spence fight Danny Garcia the same way they were okay with him fighting Mikey Garcia, the same way that they were okay with him fighting Sean Porter instead of Terence Crawford. I'm saying that if the welterweight division is a dud, it's because of the American fighters and it's because of the American fight fans. Because the American fight fans, they don't support their fighters, and it shows. It shows because of that division. If it's Fury versus Joshua, most of what you're going to hear is the Fury fans want to fight. They think he beats AJ easy. The AJ fans want to fight. They think he exposes Fury. But they both want to fight. The American fight fans don't want American fighters fighting American fighters. They don't. They don't.
And even the neutral wants to fight. Everybody wants to.
I was Ring IQ, I was responding to what you said when you said that if there's no negotiation to be had, then it should be Al Heyman's fault. And I was saying, well, it would be Bob Arum's fault too because he didn't get him to the table. That's what I was responding to.
Well, that's a ridiculous analogy. It takes two to tango. If one guy wants to come to the table and the other guy doesn't, you can't assign blame equally. One guy wants to come to the table and the other one doesn't.
One thing, in all fairness, in the case of Crawford, he is going to have to accept that he's the B-side in the negotiations.
And I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that. But what I'm saying is, your analogy doesn't make sense because didn't Bob Arum come to the table to make Wilder versus Fury? Hold on. Let's talk facts because you're not making sense. You saying that Bob Arum is not willing to come to the table? He came to the table for the Fury fight.
No. I didn't say that.
Yes, he did.
No. I said I didn't say that. I'm glad you said that. Intangible. But here's the disconnect, Ring IQ. Who says that I'm giving them all equal blame?
Well, I don't see how
blame all parties.
Hold on. Let's stick up for Battle a little tiny bit here. Right. So Crawford has to accept that he is the B-side in this scenario. We can, I think, generally all agree that at the moment. However, he's the only person with a network-specific deal. So how do you get the A side to travel to your network? That's where there is a problem there in the negotiational path.
Base. I'm gonna clarify. Let's use our boxing brains, right? Spence is the A side, right? We agree, right? We all agree. Mark, is Spence the A side?
Huh?
Is Spence the A side?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Battle, is Spence the A side?
Yes.
Virtuoso, is Spence the A side?
Also Belso, yeah.
Intangible, is Spence the A side?
Yes.
How many offers has Spence made Terence Crawford since he's the A side?
Sent no official contracts.
Does anybody, if we all know, because I know that he's the A side, sold more pay-per-views, got more marquee value. Okay, A side. 10 times out of 10, the A side sends the offers. The A side sends the contracts. Can anybody show me when Spence sent Crawford a contract because he's so focused on being the A side? Okay, then that means the ball is in your court to make it happen because you're the A side, right? So when has he tried to make the fight?
He hasn't.
But we're supposed to blame Bob for this.
No. We're not blaming. You can't blame Bob. But the point is, even if he does make the offer, essentially he's going to want it on his networks because he's the A side. But Crawford can't fight on his network.
Well, therein lies the dilemma, Base.
And that's what I'm saying. So therefore, there is a problem there.
Therein lies a dilemma, Base, because Errol Spence Jr. does not actually have a network. He floated from Showtime to Fox, and he's likely at some point he might end up floating back from Fox to Showtime. He does not have a network. To use PBC affiliated networks as if that equals exclusivity contracts for individual fighters is farce. Okay, Errol Spence does not have a multi-fight or multi-year deal with either Fox or Showtime. That's why he can float seamlessly between the two. He could
That's
float
very
to
true.
ESPN. He's not
Yeah,
under
but he doesn't want
contract
to.
fight for Fox.
But
Well,
that's the point. He doesn't
I
want to float to ESPN because that is Top Rank's network. That's not the network he's affiliated with. I'm not taking up for Spence, but I do understand where there is a problem. One person exclusive.
What
the
about
other
cross
person isn't, but
promotion and cross networking? They've done it.
Yeah, but I don't think it sells enough to make it worthwhile.
They just sold 1 million pay-per-view buys doing so.
No, they didn't. They sold 880.
They sold
808,000.
That's still a lot.
Still
a lot.
They lost money.
Let me characterize this for you, right? All right, now Errol Spence's best set of numbers came by way of Mikey Garcia. We're looking at roughly 350,000 pay-per-view buys. That was more than Wilder and Fury sold in their first fight. You understand? Wilder and Fury sold what, 325? But off of that 325, it was enough to bring both Top Rank, PBC, ESPN, and Fox to the table. 325,000 pay-per-view buys, right? Now, you look at Spence's numbers. Okay, you did 350 with Mikey Garcia. I think you could do that or better with Crawford because people are actually asking for that fight. Yet we see PBC won't come to the table. So it's not about the networks. We just saw a cross-promotional fight. We just saw a cross-network fight. It's not the network.
Lost money. But it lost money.
But yeah, that it lost money, I agree with you. But I'm saying they still made it. And that's the point. They still made it. And they're going to do it again. So you can't use the network stuff and the cross-network. You can't use that.
Here's my thing, Ring IQ. Now, another weird analogy, I'm going to put that out there right now. So, because everybody going to be getting on me in the comments, whatever. Let's say you got siblings, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you ever had a situation where there was little, and then they fight, and you're like, "Hell up, man! Why y'all fighting?" And and both of them blaming each other, be like, "Oh, it was his fault. Or it was his fault. It wasn't my fault. He was doing something." And then you like, "Okay, since none of y'all can come to an agreement, no TV for both of y'all until y'all can sort out your differences." Here's my thing: when it comes to boxing, I'm not saying that the blame is on each side equally. I'm saying we're setting a bad precedent if we're just taking sides and saying, "Oh, it's Al Heyman's fault, it's Bob Arum's fault." No, forget all that talk. The fight has not happened. I don't want to hear nothing either side has to say. I'd hate for people just to do that because we're not coming together.
Make sense. I mean, I'm telling you, we're not going to agree to this. We're not going to agree on that because that doesn't make sense at all. That makes literally no sense.
Okay. Explain to me how it does it.
If your fighter is the A-side fighter and he doesn't even have a network contract, why has no offers come out from your fighter? What are you doing? I don't even have to debate what's going on because I saw the video of Tim.
No. I'm saying in general, not just Errol Spence. When fights are not happening,
but it's not in general. We're talking about Errol Spence. We're talking about the welterweight division.
The welterweight division doesn't just include Errol Spence. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I said the entire welterweight division, which is dominated by PBC fighters. What is PBC doing to make those fights happen with Crawford?
And then I said that both sides should be equally held accountable if the fight's not happening. What
am I holding Bob Arum accountable for having not done?
If they didn't come to an agreement, that's how you cut out all of that. How are you going to
come to an agreement with somebody that won't sit down with you?
What did I just say? If you're not getting them to the table, you're at fault as well.
Oh, so
can I ask a question, Battle?
Go ahead, Green.
Have you seen Battle? Have you seen blatant lack of recognition of Terence Crawford on PBC networks?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys. So, do you remember when they were doing a "Who do you want to see Errol Spence fight next?" and they listed everybody bar Terence Crawford? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember when they recognized all of the belts bar the belt Terence Crawford had?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? Does that not show you a pattern towards Terence Crawford?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I get the idea of assigning blame and not assigning blame, but when you see that continuously happen, and you see it not once, not twice, but 3 times, but 4 times, but 10 times, doesn't that beg to ask the question, who's at the forefront of not wanting this to happen?
Well,
also, they of course.
No, Intangible, I haven't finished.
Okay.
You can go after. Do you remember a while ago when Terence Crawford was up with Errol Spence and he asked him, and then they said, "Oh, go ask Al," right? And he asked him about going to ask Al, whatever. And Errol said, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over on my side and I'm going to fight all of these other guys." Didn't that tell you that they had zero interest in fighting this guy?
Here's my thing, Mark. Okay, now if I had my own channel. If I am on a channel and I had to talk about the welterweight division and why the fights are not happening, this is the same stance I would have, because I would want my followers and I would like to at least, get to enough boxing fans to where you can cut through all the BS and you don't take sides. Here's the thing. A lot of times people will say that we want to see the best fight the best, but a lot of times it's picking sides. It's over here on Al Heyman's side, over here on Bob Arum's side. You remember the division with the DAZN and Al Heyman. I'm gonna finish this up. Right after you. Here's my thing. I don't want people to try to take sides. I want them to cut through the BS and be like, I want the fight to happen. Shut up. I don't care which side is talking. Make the fight happen, or I'm just not going to pay for your fights. And I know I'm not going to win that battle.
And another thing that sort of stemmed from the whole them just not recognizing Crawford is they decided to somehow conveniently strip recognition of Terence Crawford in, I think it was like June or July of last year. They just stopped recognizing it. And I mean, what could be the reason besides Crawford being recognized? Really?
Can I say something here?
Go ahead, Virtuoso.
For all the criticism I heard about Crawford re-signing with Top Rank, right? Up until October 2019, there was a lot of fights to be made, big fights at welterweight, where you had the three amigos of the lower tier, of welterweights, Crawford, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, and Sean Porter, who I think were a level below Spence, but they were very apprehensive about talking about him, facing him. Like where was all the where was all these matchups at? Like I didn't understand. Like you had all these welterweights supposedly that are the best, and they didn't make these fights.
See, this is what I'm gonna say, right? This is cognitive dissonance. This is willful ignorance, because these fighters, we know how the business works. I think that everybody on this panel has a good enough idea of the business and how it works, and they know that those fighters are free agents. They do not a single one of them has a network contract. And what we're accenting here is their lack of desire to fight Terence Crawford. There's nothing stopping them. They just don't want to. Andy Ruiz wanted to fight Anthony Joshua. He ended up crossing the street. Didn't he?
Yeah.
He wanted that fight. He petitioned for that fight. Why? Because he wanted it.
I honestly just can't get mad at the PBC fighters, to be honest. I have to blame it on Al. I think Al Heyman's at the helm of it.
Intangible. I blame Al. Don't get it twisted. But I'm saying that if there is blame to assign, it is all assigned to one side, because you guys don't want to. But even if you did, he wouldn't let you. But you guys don't want to. I heard Keith Thurman talk down the WBO belt. He said, I don't respect that organization. Let me tell you something about the WBO belt. The PBC's willing to fight for it when it's convenient, because Brian Castaño's a PBC fighter. He was all set to fight for the WBO before
Stephen Fulton is fighting for the WBO belt on August 1st.
And Angelo Leo, he's a PBC fighter. Y'all ain't got a problem with the WBO. You got a problem with Terence Crawford.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I think this is very hypocritical.
They've visibly shown that they have no interest in Crawford, whatsoever. I've seen that. It's not a secret. It's not even on Errol Spence's part. And that's my thing. I know I'm not going to win this argument. I'm just saying that I think you can cut through all the BS if you just be like, both people's at fault. I don't want to hear no talk, because we've been having these discussions. We've been having these discussions for years, man. I remember when I was just getting unbiased. And what was that? 2016 or 2017 was having these long discussions about why these welterweights not fighting each other. Man, it got way old really fast.
All I'm saying is that you notice that a division that is dominated by American fighters and that is mostly viewed by American fight fans is hesitant to stage the biggest fight that it has. In other divisions, right, where it's not all about the American fighters and the American fight fans, like the heavyweight division. If you ask Fury fans, they want Fury to expose AJ again. If you ask AJ, they want AJ's fans, they want AJ to expose Fury. There's none of this BS. There's none of this. There's none of this.
You don't think the fans of Crawford and Errol Spence don't want to see them fight?
Well, can I ask a question?
Wait, let me answer that question. I'm 100% sure Spence fans don't want to see him fight Crawford.
I don't think that about you. No,
I do actually think they do, but they come up with excuses for.
No, they don't. They don't.
Here's my thing.
Can I come in?
You know why I say that? They acting like somebody that don't want to fight. That's why I'm saying that. They acting like that's how somebody act. That's how somebody act when they don't want to throw hands. That's how they act. Nah. Bro, if you want to throw hands, you're gonna throw hands. If you want to fight, you want to fight. It ain't gonna be nah. Go ahead,
Can I ask? Yeah, right. Well, we all agreed that a lot of the Spence fans are also Deontay Wilder fans.
I'll concede. Yeah, I'll concede to that. I think
not
that.
all of them, but a lot of them.
A lot, yes.
A strong majority. Right?
Yeah, that's all.
And we need to look at a precedence, right? So why would we possibly think that maybe they wouldn't want their guys to fight? Have they ever shown this before? Well, I remember just over the last 4 months them petitioning to have Tyson Fury completely stripped of his title so that Deontay Wilder doesn't have to fight him. So they've shown a precedent of not wanting their fighter to have to take the toughest thing. They've shown that.
Gervonta Davis and Vasyl Lomachenko. All right, now let me get this in here. All right, I need this catharsis. Gervonta Davis's fans are more happy posting memes on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter than advocating that he fight Vasyl Lomachenko, and they've been happy to do this for the last 3-4 years. They're more happy. No, don't cut me off. They've been doing this every time you tell, like, yes, Lomachenko got touched up in the Pedraza fight, so Gervonta Davis should fight him. Period. Right? No, that's not the hierarchy of thought. They rather post memes of Loma in the Pedraza fight than advocate the Tank fight Loma.
I honestly don't know how anybody can be a Tank.
Here's my thing, though. Ring IQ. Like I don't. I wasn't gonna go down that hole, but here's the thing. I think that personally, it's a fanboyism thing. When a fighter decides I don't want to do something, the fans will quickly get behind him and say he doesn't have to do it. Or if a fighter really wants to do something, they say, forget all that talk you're saying. This fighter wants to fight, and it's a fanboyism thing. Now, you remember like back in the Triple G days when people was advocating why Triple G shouldn't fight Andre Ward, even though on multiple occasions, Andre Ward saying, hey, I will fight you. I'll move to 164 and whatnot. And then, everybody just completely advocating against that. Yet people also want him to move up to fight Carl Frost. Oh, Andre Ward, there's no money in Andre. Like, here's the thing. It's a fanboyism thing. They back up their own fighter depending on what that fighter wants to do. It's the same thing with these welterweights. If Errol Spence wanted to fight Crawford next, people would be like, Crawford, get on this side of the street. Let's make the fight happen. They wouldn't be going on and on about, oh, this fight need to marinate. It's a fanboyism thing. That's what it is. I'm not
saying it's not a fanboyism thing. I'm just saying that it's the PBC's fanboys that are more culpable than anyone else.
Right. And I wouldn't be so sure that. I think, like I said, it depends on what the fighter wants. Well, I remember I used to have these conversations for.
All right, since it depends on what the fighter wants. Can you show me a fighter on the PBC side that wants to fight Crawford?
No, I can't do that. I'm saying.
All right, but I'm going into your argument. You're saying it's a fanboy thing, and they just align with what the fighter wants, right? That's what you're saying. That they align with whatever the fighter says. They align with whatever the fighter wants. Okay, what fighter on the PBC side wants to fight Crawford?
Nobody. Probably except for Ugas.
But Ugas wants to fight for a baby belt. Keith Thurman is chasing a Pacquiao rematch that he's not going to get, or a Spence fight that he might not get for another 2 fights.
Yeah,
There's
But
rumors that
here's
Sean
my
Porter.
thing.
Hold on. There's rumors that Sean Porter might end up fighting Ivan fucking Redcack. There's rumors of that. All right. So if your argument is it's all based on what the fighter wants, then you have to acquiesce that those fighters don't want to fight Crawford.
But Ring IQ, I got you. We've already established that. And why do you think that most fans are not advocating for Crawford and Porter? Why do you think most fans are not advocating for Crawford and Danny or Crawford and Keith Thurman? All it is talking about Errol Spence. There's no talk about Crawford. It's all talking about Errol Spence and Crawford. That's what everyone is talking about.
Talk about Crawford? Like, I don't understand that. Why would there be talk about Crawford? Is Crawford saying I don't want to fight somebody or something like that?
No. No, that's not what I look here. I'm saying that the reason you're not seeing most of this talk with them is because once a fighter make up their mind about something, the fanboys will get on their case and say, "Well, he doesn't have to fight him anyway." That's usually what they do.
Let me address this vlog comp moments guy. Hey, vlog, you do realize that it was Sean Porter that said, "Now's not the right time for me to fight Terence Crawford." You do realize that, right? Do I have to go as far as pulling up the article for you because you don't have enough mental capacity to look it up yourself? Don't ever accuse me of talking the talk. I'll fucking block you. I don't give a shit. I've done enough videos about things Porter said, and at no point in time was Porter jumping out of his skin to fight Terence Crawford. The fuck out of here.
Neither of them were, to be honest.
I mean, my initial point was very simple. American fight fans don't want that fight. American fight fans are kind of detrimental to boxing. They kind of are because they rather play this division game, this clicks game. They don't really want Spence to fight Crawford. Crawford fans want him to fight Spence because it's been a long time since Crawford fought someone that was worth fighting. But is that really his fault when the entire division is dominated by one stable who doesn't want to fight him? They're happy to not fight him. And it would be idiotic to assign blame equally when how is it Crawford's fault that Spence and Danny and Keith, they don't really want to fight him? Ugas doesn't even want to fight him.
Oh, man. But we can move on from that one. So,
I mean, you make an interesting point. Like, if a network is very confident in their fighter, like crossing the street, they would already make that fight. I mean, they're not bound by any contract, like you said, by any network contract. So why not make that fight happen? It doesn't make sense to me.
They were confident enough to put Wilder in there with a recovering cokehead who had mental health issues and was battling obesity. They were confident enough to do that, not once but twice. They were confident, even when there was an opposing domestic American network on the other side of that. They were still confident enough to let it happen. But in the welterweight division, they don't have that confidence because Terence Crawford is not a recovering coke addict battling obesity. If he were, we probably would have seen this fight already.
I'm sorry.
That was my fault. That was a cross-promotional, cross-network fight the second time out. That's what it was the second time out. But it still happened. In spite of Fox and ESPN, in spite of Top Rank and the PBC, it still happened. So that the network, no, that's not an excuse, bro. It's not.
I just feel like they're playing this game of medical malpractice where they're kind of just waiting for the other fighter, to catch something, an injury or suffer a loss, and then they pull out their offer,
I want to highlight this too. Mr. Black Stallion is 100% right. Not only are they not bound to a network, they have no promoter. Al Heyman is their manager. Quite right. These are fighters that have more liberty, believe it or not, than most other fighters. It's their decision to take the fight or pursue the fight or not pursue the fight. They're not pursuing the fight. And what I'm saying, we know that already. We know they're not pursuing it, but the fans themselves are giving them a pass. Because here we have Battle telling me that I'm supposed to assign blame to Bob for having done what exactly? What did he do that was counterproductive?
Well, actually,
what did he do that was against making those fights?
Okay, Ray.
I'm gonna ask you, Vlog, who beat more world champions? I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you who's been a champion in more weight classes, who beat more active reigning world champions, who was lineal more times, who held the Ring Magazine belt more times, who beat more gold medalists, Olympic gold medalists, since you want to ask me silly questions.
Well, Crawford has won 6 belts to Spence is 2. He's beaten 7 former current champions to Spence is 5. Won 1 and 2 more divisions, became undisputed more times. It's pretty much a whitewash in terms of resume. Now, in terms of individual names, it's probably close as far as their best win goes. But, I mean, the fashion in which Crawford defeated Postal is probably better than the fashion Spence beat Porter.
Look, I just pulled out a video of Ellie Seidbeck of their encounter between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. It did 500,000 views. That means to tell me that the money is there. Now, granted, it may not touch the benchmark of a Mayweather Pacquiao, but it's there. It's still a lucrative fight.
Look, it goes back. Let me just impart this, and I'm gonna pass it back to you, Virtuoso. Remember, Wilder versus Fury, the first one, it didn't do huge numbers. It did 325,000 pay-per-view buys, right? That's not an astronomical number, but they thought enough of that fight that it should happen again. 325,000 buys. Spence by himself did 350. Well, not by himself, with Mikey Garcia.
Yeah.
He did 350,000 buys. All right, that's more than Wilder and Fury did the first time out. So it's not, oh, the money's not. No, there's money there. There's money there. It's obvious that there's money there. I just don't want to make it.
Yeah, it's just like you're combining audiences, you're combining fan bases, and it's gonna culminate into a big event. It's just I don't know.
Actually, you know what? I take back what I said earlier about the two networks not necessarily wanting to work together because they might lose money. Because if you remember, Wilder and Fury got given stupid guarantees against the second pay-per-view, which they should have never got, which then made them have to do 1.1 to break even. So yeah, Spence and Crawford wouldn't get anywhere near that amount of money. So they should need a lot lower number in order just to make a profit. So yeah, there should be no reason.
This is the thing, Base. I'll say whether or not the pay-per-view is successful isn't necessarily based on the number of buys so much as what are you guaranteeing these guys. Now, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford aren't two guys that I would say you should guarantee anything to the tune of $30 million. No, you shouldn't. Yeah. They're not there. They're not there to where you could take that financial risk. They are there where you can guarantee the both of them, I'd say about 7 to 10. Somewhere between there. 7 to 10.
I wouldn't really say that they necessarily deserve 8 figures at this point. I think about 7-8 million at this point. Probably a 55-45 split in Spence's favor if I'm the negotiator.
Yeah, I mean, 10 in 10 is generous if I'm being honest, because I see a situation where, you know what, if you want this thing to make money, right? You want it to make money. You don't want it to be upside down once the buys come in. You guarantee the both of them. Let's say, all right, Spence is the A side. Guarantee Spence 10. Give him 10. Fuck it. Give him 10 or 9. Give Crawford 7 or 6. That's the guarantee.
You want to know what's another big problem? And it's not a welterweight problem. It's a problem with fighters of today. Why the fights are not happening? A lot of fighters just can't promote themselves. They don't know themselves.
Wait, I gotta address this vlog guy because I guess he doesn't know. Do you want to know what Sean Porter and Errol Spence were guaranteed for their fight with each other?
$3 million, I think.
Wrong. Less than that.
Wasn't it 1.5?
$2 million. So you want to know what Crawford was guaranteed for fighting Mean Machine?
5.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah, they don't make that much, but guys like Vlog, I gotta say this. I love when guys like Vlog, who don't have a clue what's going on, right, come on this channel because they make it easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Terence Crawford was guaranteed more for fighting Igis Kavaliauskas than Sean Porter and Errol Spence were guaranteed for fighting each other.
Together as well.
Yeah.
And it would to answer your question, Vlog, he has seen 5 million. But here's the thing though. I think what did you want to cook more on that Ring IQ before?
Oh no, I mean I could also say that, when Danny Garcia fought Keith Thurman, Terence Crawford made more fighting Jose Benavidez Jr. than they made individually fighting each other. But you want to ask stupid questions. How much do you think Danny Garcia gets for fighting the guys that this guy's getting like $1 million? Tops.
Yeah,
Like
he-
$1
Nah,
million.
he getting
and
like
he
he getting
turned
like
down.
5 million ring that freaking Walter White district thing he got going on.
Yep,
Before
he
that
turned
matchup.
down and he turned down $3 million in a pay-per-view against Bud for fucking $950,000 against Adrian Granados. So
I
Pitiful.
want to answer Shiz Biz's question. Okay, you do realize that Bob Arum has said very negative things about Eddie Hearn. Did that stop Eddie Hearn from pushing for the Crolla fight and the Campbell fight? No. Did that stop him from pushing for the Jose Ramirez versus Maurice Hooker fight? No. You know why? Because Eddie Hearn is a grown-ass man and not a child. So if that's what's stopping fights from happening, he called me a name. Then Al Heyman is a little bitch.
did that stop?
that's what
Bostic and Stevenson from happening, or Wilder Fury 2, which just happened?
Yeah, I mean, these arguments are ridiculous. Vlog wants proof, right? Because I don't post proof on this channel every single fucking episode of what I talk about, right? Like, dog, you're out of you on the wrong channel, brother.
And that's the thing that bothers me is just the oversensitivity of these fans, man. Like this is the hurt business, man. Eventually, you're gonna say things that are unpleasant. That's just how it goes.
What guys like Vlog are proving is what I said at the beginning of this video. American fight fans have become a detriment to boxing because you have a division that is dominated by American fighters. But what is he doing? He's actually talking down a very accomplished American fighter because he doesn't really want Crawford to fight Spence. Do you read his comments and you tell me if you think he wants Crawford to fight Spence? This isn't complex. There's nothing hard about it. If Crawford sucks, then fighting him shouldn't be a problem. You were willing to go to the United Kingdom to fight Kell Brook in Sheffield, right? That was a risky situation. That was risky. It was. But, for the most part, there was some risks involved. There were. But they were willing to let you do it. Why? Well, that guy's coming off an ass-kicking, eye surgery, and a big weight cut. Now, when you don't have all these angles, now it's hard to make the fights. Now it's hard. Well, it's difficult. Sides of the street. All that shit. Even though a fighter that's in your stable just fought a guy who's on another side of the street, didn't he? Wilder fought Fury for the second time. Fury was on the opposing side of the street. So that can't be the reason.
Yeah, they just oppose these two fighters, and they just wait till one of them lose that and then they just basically devalue them to give them an offer, basically put them in a position where it's like, you know what, take it or leave it, because my fighter is better than your fighter.
If anything, the people who are really hardcore fans of Wilder probably I think there's some that disbanded from him, and then there's some that grew closer to him because he lost. I mean, in my opinion, you can tell more about a fighter when they lose, but that's probably same case for AJ as well. But like I said, I think a big problem why this fight not being made, or at least more effectively, because these fighters don't know how to promote themselves. Because if most fighters had the money to put up for the fights, and they, it wasn't so much A side B side talk, they would be able to. Most of these fights would be able to happen, but a lot of these fights, they don't know how to promote themselves. They have to go the marination route, in their opinion, because
now let me add this to it, Battle. Right now, I will concede that Terence Crawford's numbers as of late, they're not that great. But in 2017, 2018, he was actually doing great numbers. I believe it was in 2018 when he did the most numbers for any combat sport, including mixed martial arts.
You know what I think that is? Wasn't that when ESPN Plus first came out? Or
That fight wasn't on ESPN Plus.
Which one?
He was on regular ESPN, I would assume.
Yes.
You talking about what? Amir Khan?
No, when I just said 2018.
Benavidez.
2018. That was.
Jose
He did.
Benavidez.
That was Jose Benavidez. Now back to the point. We can't keep using popularity as, oh, well, they don't want to fight Crawford because he's not popular. No, there was a time when Crawford did more numbers than every single fighter on your stable, including your heavyweight.
No. I was just saying in general, most fighters should be able to,
And what I'm saying about your point about selling yourself and popularity is that can't be it, because in 2018, Terence Crawford had the most watched combat fight of any kind, boxing and mixed martial arts, and he was putting up bigger numbers than all you guys. You didn't want to fight him then. So why the hell?
The exception isn't always the rule, Ring IQ. I mean, maybe he is the exception. Here's the thing, though. Wasn't Danny Garcia calling for that Errol Spence fight after he fought Sean Porter?
I think, yeah. And
wait. But was it Mikey Garcia or was it Sean Porter? I think it was Sean Porter.
I'm not seeing I'm not getting the point here. Like, what's the point?
Well, Danny Garcia wasn't willing to fight Errol Spence until he saw that he was willing to put up the numbers. Don't you think that's what changed Danny Garcia's tune?
No, I think it's because Spence looked more vulnerable, or maybe he's being coaxed to do it. I could think of a lot of reasons why Danny Garcia is having that fight that don't have anything to do with numbers. But it could be, for argument's sake, okay, let's say it's the numbers. You weren't in a hurry to fight Terence Crawford when he was putting up bigger numbers than Spence, because the Spence versus Peterson fight didn't do astronomical numbers. It didn't. Crawford was doing good numbers at that time. Now, which guy on that side, based on numbers, wanted to fight Crawford?
Well, it could be, of course, there's never just one reason. It could be that he feels that he could beat Errol Spence and get a lot of bread doing so. It could be on Terence Crawford's side, even though he knows he can make money, but he probably wouldn't win.
What is it that Vlog Moments wants receipts of? I'll tell you what. I'm going to post this link here, and you can ask me about whatever you want, and I will pull up the corroborating article. One, because I know that it exists, and two, because I've done that already in episodes of the Relay. Terence Crawford is guaranteed more per fight than PBC fighters are in pay-per-views. That's a matter of fact, per his ESPN contract. Doc, what do you think about all this, man?
Beats has already broken this down as far as I'm concerned. It's not a matter of whether or not, and I'm not saying whether the PBC fighters do or don't want the fight. I'm saying it don't matter if they want the fight. If Al says no, guess what? They ain't fighting.
Do you get the impression, Doc, that Al wants that fight, though?
Well, obviously, I don't get that impression. Obviously, he's not going to budge. He's not going to come up off of doing things in house unless he gets an offer he can't refuse. That's my perception of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing, Doc. Are you still on this stance that everybody's at fault? Shut up, make the fight happen. Are you still on?
Bob isn't going. Yeah, Bob. As far as I'm concerned, I'm like, okay, fine, fuck it, Bob. Make him an offer he can't refuse. Because I don't care. Obviously, I don't care who gets paid what, how much, how much out of pocket, whatever one of them has. I don't give a shit about any of that. But I do, but facts are facts. And like I said, Beats went through the Al Heyman contract. Al Heyman has right of first refusal on not just on the fights they do. He's got right of first refusal on if they show up at the mall and sign autographs.
Yeah, that's my thing.
So it makes it difficult to gauge just how interested of one of his fighters is or isn't in something when you know that they don't really get final say anyways.
I say because I agree with that. I agree with it. I agree with that he has right of first refusal is obvious. Ultimately, it's Al Heyman's call. What I'm saying, however, is that the fighters are happy to hide behind his skirt and what decisions he makes. They themselves don't actually want that fight. Even if they did, it's true. Even if they did, he probably wouldn't let them have it. But either way, the blame is going in the same direction, isn't it? The blame is to be assigned to the PBC, because if there is reluctance to make these kinds of fights time and time again,
let's not mince words. The majority of the blame goes on Al. Al's the one going, nah, I don't think so. Al would rather, like you used the example earlier of, was it Porter and Thurman that made $2 million apiece?
Yeah.
Right. Al's looking at it like, I'm speculating here. Al's looking at it like, hey, well, yeah, these guys are only getting paid $2 million apiece, but I'm getting action off both of them. Whereas in a Crawford fight, he's only getting action on his guy.
No, I just want to take this time to verify what I'm saying. Okay. I'm going to put up some screen mirroring so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now, Porter versus Spence were guaranteed $2 million when they fought each other. That was their guarantee for the both of them. Spence was
I wasn't disputing that.
This isn't for you, Doc. This isn't for you.
Okay.
$2 million. It's right there. That's per Forbes, right? Forbes. All right. Now, if we go to what Crawford is guaranteed per fight, pay-per-view or not, if we go to what he's guaranteed per fight, it will show. Give me a second. Crawford's minimum purse for each fight exceeds $3 million. I mean, I got receipts. I do it all the time.
And Al gets no action off the Crawford side of things.
Yeah.
So
there's no reason.
So basically, Crawford is he's guaranteed 15 boxes. You seen the South Century ring got Q with the cigarettes?
Oh yeah. I'm just saying that I love guys like Vlog that they don't actually care about these details because they clearly don't know what they are. They don't want to look them up themselves. And after you do the legwork for them, they still want to talk like they know what they're talking about. You gotta love these motherfuckers. You gotta love them. You gotta love them.
One thing I agree with you completely, Ring. The American boxing fan, the collectively is a mess. And it's part of the reason that American boxing's a mess.
Yeah, it's the most divisive era so far.
Well, you know what it is.
Lennox. All right, now I want Lennox. Shout out to Lennox. Now, Lennox actually is in the industry. For those of you that don't know, Vlog, you may not know this, but Lennox is actually in the world of boxing, right? So when he talks, right, this is what a guy like you should do, Vlog. You should shut the fuck up and let somebody talk who knows this industry better than you do because they actually work in it. So, Vlog, you can shut the fuck up. Lennox, the floor is yours.
Nah, fam, I've just been listening in here. I was doing a bit of editing, but I had to jump in because I realized that them still buy into this myth that Al's got money. Like, we both know that Al does not have the budget or the money. Like, remember the thing I was telling you about the them looking for a home? You know what? You know what? Yeah, okay. Have you noticed the amount of people exiting Al's grasp in the last quarter?
Yeah.
No one wants to chat about that, right? People want to talk about, this man left Matchroom when not really. He didn't leave Matchroom. Matchroom let him go. But you notice that people now leaving because, number one, Al's not got the fight dates. And quiet as kept, they're not going to be coming back in full strength to Fox. There's no time for them. So they're going to be buying time on different networks. You know what I mean? I can confirm that. So them think that Al's got all this money when it's like, nah, he doesn't. And he does not have faith in his people. You know who's got faith in their people? I can tell you right now off the bat, Eddie does not give a fuck. Because Eddie's going to throw a fighter out there. You win, you come back, you get you this thing, right? Even cheap ass, what's his name? What's man's name again? Old ass liver spots. He's got more faith in his
Guys?
stable.
Frank Warren?
Huh?
Frank?
No. Bob.
Oh, Bob. Yeah.
Bob's
there.
got more faith in his stable, right? The thing is, Al's running this game where he's not willing to take risk. And he's got these guys in deals where, you know, I mean, they are his material.
I had a question for you, Lennox, and this is kind of nitpicking, but is it more faith in his guys or aversion to risk? Because Al seems very risk averse. If you get me, almost regardless of whether he thinks his guy can win, he just doesn't want to take the chance of you know what I mean, losing his foothold. Whereas Bob don't.
Here's the thing.
Eddie don't give a fuck, and Bob don't give a fuck if his guy loses for the most part.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah,
it's,
I've been hearing that.
Faith. It's faith. It's a combination of both. Yeah, because when the odds are in his favor, he's willing to take a risk.
Exactly. I was going to
When
say
the
that.
man's coming off a loss, when the man's coming off now, I can actually talk about this because it's been confirmed, and it's not an excuse because he didn't make an excuse. Everyone knew AJ wasn't 100% on June 1st. It's actually been confirmed.
Talking about injuries.
No, and it has been confirmed. For those of you that are not aware, Serafina, who used to be on the same team as Jarrell Miller and Joey DeVaco, she confirmed that Joey DeVaco gave AJ a concussion in sparring before the Ruiz fight. She confirmed that on IFL TV. I haven't done a video on it yet, but I've been meaning to. It's not a conspiracy theory now.
Well, here's the thing. That was weeks out before that. And man just kept training. So he was not 100. And there was another medical condition. But point being, yeah, Al knew this. And, you know, boxing's a very, very small circle, especially on the East Coast. You know what I mean? If you just move through gyms or you move through the media market, it's quite a small circle. You get me? So there's not really.
The fighters all know each other from young, from fighting in the
yeah. But even the business, even the promoters, the guys of this thing, you know, it's not a very this thing. So when them know. So my point in saying that is, Al's willing to go in there when he feels like the cards are stacked in his favor. Al's never gonna roll the dice on a 50-50 situation.
Nope.
That's what I was asking. See, with Andy, he didn't have anything really invested in Andy. He just signed him, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really any skin off his nose if Andy takes an L there.
No. Yeah. I mean,
and if we want to analyze that situation, you could tell by Andy's actions through everything post fight and through the negotiation of the second fight, he didn't believe he beat 100% opponent. He didn't believe it himself.
Yeah, he didn't. No, it's obvious. He's saying that he didn't train. I can interpret that as he didn't view it as a risk. So he thought, I'm just going to go in there and smack him around again. Or it could be that, you know what, you have discipline issues and this, that, and the other. But it all equates to the same thing. I was confident ahead of the second fight, AJ's going to win. Because I could see something was wrong with the guy. But I didn't want to make excuses for it, and I'm still not.
And it's not excuses. So when we look at, when we look at the math, people buy into this myth of Al's got all this money. You just showed, and it's a known fact. Crawford's deal was never a big secret. Crawford's making more money than there. It's been documented. We've got former Al Heyman fighters who moved over to other camps. Like the biggest example is what's his name? The middleweight. God, I'm blanking on him. He was the first one that Eddie signed when he came over here, yeah? Man moved. Danny Jacobs, yeah. Danny Jacobs did better numbers under Eddie and made more money, moved from Long Island, wherever, outskirts of Long Island, to a massive mansion in Atlanta under Eddie, not under Al. And he was a top guy running, he had one of the biggest fights against Peter Quillen.
I want to bring up. I want to explore that a little further. I made that a talking point about 2, maybe 3 years ago. That Danny Jacobs is doing better numbers on television, on a premier boxing channel. So you can't. A premier cable channel, right? So you can't even use that excuse because that used to be an excuse that Showtime doesn't reach as many homes as other networks. Okay, but HBO is a premium cable channel, and on that channel, Daniel Jacobs did better viewership, Eddie Hearn, than he did under Al Heyman. So all this Al shit is a myth. It's a myth.
No,
Exactly.
The thing to clarify my position, my thing with Al isn't anything to do with money. It's to do with in his contract, from the way Beats broke it down, he gets to say, nah, you're not doing that, and the fighters.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. What I was saying is that from the fan standpoint, the fans don't know how much agonical control he has over his fighters, and what you're going to see now is that you're going to see a lot more people exiting that because now he can't deliver. He's in a position now with his broadcaster that he's not going to be able to deliver things to the fighters, and the ones that aren't getting that much money and are trying to be active and are actually trying to make money are going to be exiting. Watch me. Like I discussed this with Ring on a privately. They're going to a bit of shit now. Everyone's going through it, but they're in quite a situation because their main broadcaster does not have the dates and is not willing to put up the budget for them. Whereas everyone else has got guaranteed dates and more fighters than they can know what to do with. So now you're watching Mandem exit slowly because what it is, the only clause there, if Al can't deliver, that's the only way you get out. And he's in a position where he can't deliver. But back to the Spence and Crawford situation, you know what it is? The fans aren't calling for it because I don't think the fans are really boxing fans. That's just my 2 cents on it, yeah? It's sort of like this cult thing that's delivered, but it's quite clear who's on it. And just like Julius pointed out, yeah, Bob goes at Eddie every week. You know what I mean? Like he chats shit about Eddie every week, but it's not really. It's business. And you know what Eddie does to him?
Dude,
Bob
has stated more than once that he firmly believes Don King tried to have him killed. And guess who he did business with? A whole bunch. Don King. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So you can't really, you know what I mean?
He's also said that he also said Al Heyman doesn't exist.
No, man was taking the piss on that.
My point, Battle, is Bob will do business with anybody. He don't give a fuck.
But see, this is the thing, and I want to say this before I pass it back to Lennox. There's certain things you know about a boxing fan or someone who's not a boxing fan based on what they say. And Bob literally has worked with everyone, is still working with everyone, even Al Heyman.
As long as the money's right. As long as the money's right.
Yeah, but Bob works with Frank. Bob works with Eddie. Bob works with Oscar. Bob works with Al.
Yep.
He might end up working with Lou DiBella again because Regis Prograis, he's still a Lou DiBella entertainment fighter. I heard rumblings that ESPN offered Regis a main event, against who? I don't know. Maybe Pablo Cano, maybe. I don't know. But they offered him a main event. He's got 2 options. He can fight on Matchroom against somebody, or he can fight under Top Rank ESPN against somebody. Bob works with everybody. If you don't know that, then you don't know boxing.
Yep, and the only really way to fuck with Bob is fuck with his money, which is why I think Eddie gets under his skin, because Eddie does fuck with his money. You know what I mean? And it's also probably because Bob's cheap as shite.
Well, he is. How curious do you think he was that he had to overpay Anthony Crolla so that Eddie wouldn't be able to push for a first bid? I bring this up all the time, and it's like, this is how I know that my countrymen are idiots, because I've brought this up over and over, and it's like, it's not coming from Eddie. It's literally coming from Bob. I had to overpay Anthony Crolla because Eddie Hearn was trying to push for a first bid so that Vasyl Lomachenko would fight on his own. Bob don't like people playing with his money. Are you nuts?
The other big problem with the American boxing fan right now, though, is there's just not very many of us. Boxing is fallen from, being right up there with baseball in the 70s. It was bigger than, think about it, bigger than the NFL. That's incomprehensible now.
Yeah, honestly, it is. It's a dream. It's a dream to imagine that a boxing match would do the same numbers as the Super Bowl or something like that.
Bigger, bigger numbers. In the 70s, it was bigger. This shit was on the weekends every weekend on ABC.
Doc, I think you're the oldest one here. Wasn't it on par? Okay, maybe not fully. I'm not going to say that, but wasn't it on par with WWE at one point?
What are you talking about, Battle?
The numbers for boxing.
I'm talking, yeah, but we're talking about it in the 70s. WWE was it wasn't even WWF.
No, I'm saying not just the 70s, but like the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, in the 80s especially.
Yeah,
but the WWF wasn't really touching boxing numbers.
My point being, it was a mainstream top 4 sport in this country back in those days. So you had a whole lot more boxing fans and just sports fans that liked boxing and would stop and watch boxing. You ain't got that now. Now all you have is a very small but devoted heart, what do they call it? Like with movies and shit, a cult following.
Yeah,
you know what is that era had polarizing boxers. Yeah, you had a lot of people, like you had characters that were sellable to the mainstream, and it wasn't forced. I think the problem now is all the man them are trying to force these guys to be things that they're not. You had guys that were, what I mean? You had
Lennox. Me, Lennox, and Doc are probably the oldest guys here, and I think Virtuoso is somewhere around our age group. Can we say that the quality of the match has gone down?
The quality of the what?
Repeat that.
That the quality of the matches has gone down.
Yes.
Yes.
The product is not what it used to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean we don't have the same stable of fighters, so of course it's not gonna.
No, it's not. I don't think it's a stable. It's the attitude of fighters. Like, I mean, the fighter of my, I'm a 80s baby. I think I'm the same age as Julius, so I'm a Margaret Thatcher era.
Right,
and I came up with man like Roy, and Roy was about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't got anyone with attitude, much to his detriment when he should have walked away from fights. He refused to. Roy was about it. Roy was about at 100. And I've met Roy. I've worked with Roy. That's Roy till this day. I don't give a shit who he is. He's like, if that man says he's better than me, I got to see him. Let's make it happen.
If I'm playing devil's advocate, I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, there's a lot of fights that we can see as far as in certain divisions, it's not really up to par. Like, I mean, the best fight you can make at 160 right now is probably what Canelo versus Charlo. I mean, not a bad fight. Don't get me wrong, not a bad fight at all. But I mean, comparative to like the 90s and the 80s, is I mean, I would still love to see it.
No, it's not about that. It's about even if it was a basic fight of 2 mandatories or whatever, right? All the guys available fought all the guys available. We didn't have this much discussion about this guy not fighting the other guy. Every guy available, whether they were good, bad, or whatever, they fought everyone available. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, talk about. So I was using Roy Jones. I picked him as an example because he was his own promoter. So if there was anyone, who had an excuse to play sides of the street or duck fights, right? It would have been him because he was his own promoter, but he didn't do that. He actively pursued the situations. If you wanted smoke with Roy, I can always remember the press conference, 60-40, I'll whoop your ass, boy.
Yeah, me too. 60-40, whoops your ass. 60-40,
you know what I mean? So that's the difference. You can't talk about what we're not discussing the level of talent because that's not an argument you could really have. That's all about opinion, yeah. We're talking about everyone available fighting everyone available. If you're a top 10 guy, you fighting all the other top 10 guys.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. That's not happening right now. That's really what I'm on. Is that
really should happen. That really should happen. I mean, it's sad that I think I hate to come back to that. I think it's a lot of people just aren't good at promoting themselves. Like, you literally have nowadays a YouTuber can make $1 million on his debut fight. Like, it's weird. Like, I mean, like, these fighters aren't really putting themselves out there for them to be known. Like, I don't
think that's the nature of the problem. I think the nature of the problem is the fans is definitely a huge problem. Because this era's fans, and I'm gonna be honest when I say this, right? This era's fans are a bunch of fucking pussies. If you got guys who sit there saying things like, "Oh, well, Bob called Al a name, and that didn't help."
Well, honestly, Ring IQ, I don't think the casual boxing fan pays attention to that. At least
that's
the
coming
point that's
from, bro. That's coming from the casual boxing fan.
No, in the battle, we don't have casual boxing fans anymore. That's the problem.
why don't we, Doc? I'm saying most of the time
because dude, you can't find the shit. Look, in the 70s and 80s, right? And I know I've said this a million times. This is what happens when you get old. You repeat yourself. Our Olympic boxing, right, was on fucking ABC. There was 3 channels. It was on primetime fucking TV. You can't find Olympic boxing now. You have to go on a fucking snipe hunt to dig that shit up if you want to watch it when it happens. Hang on. And number 2, as a result of that, when our guys got out, never mind the fact that, you know, our Olympic boxing team we used to go win gold medals, plural, for fun. All right. Never mind that. When these guys, because of the fact it was on primetime TV, because the sport was so much bigger comparatively to what it is now, these guys like Sugar Ray Leonard and whatnot came out stars. They were already stars before they even, you know, got into the pros. Even a guy like Mark Breland, people knew who Mark Breland was. But he was recognizable name. Sorry, go ahead, Julius.
No, but you're 100% right. The Olympics had a lot to do because you'd follow the fighter through the Olympics into his pro career. So by the time he turned pro, he already had a following. The same shit that happened with Anthony Joshua in the Brits.
Yes, exactly. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that we had Ali gold medalist, Joe Frazier gold medalist, George Foreman gold medalist, right? And I look back at the 70s as the golden age of heavyweights. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Battle.
And I was just saying, like, it's, you know, we come far away from those days. You know, back in the 70s, it seemed to be this thing where it was like this genre they try to push, like an American hero, like with Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard, or, you know, like the face of America type stuff. We don't have it anymore. And now I think, and that's why I think boxers have to adapt to the environment they're living in. They have to know what to sell themselves as.
You know what is
pride? No. I'm going to say this. I'm going to take control here. All right. What happened to boxing is what happened to Pilates when it was Americanized. It's what happened to karate when it was Americanized. That's what happened to boxing. The soul, the spirit, the pride, the integrity was removed from it because boxers, they like, dog, I can't imagine having these conversations in 1989 or 1995.
They didn't happen. They didn't happen. They didn't fucking happen. Oh my God. You have no idea how maddening. I real quick, like, I'm going to be 52 in October. All right. You have no idea how maddening most of this shit gets. It's like you mentioned earlier, like it must be like a dream. It's like, dude, it's like an episode of the Twilight Zone where you wake up and you're in a different dimension. You're like, whoa, what happened here? You know?
I agree. No, I agree.
No, you know what is also. No, I think it's a bit of just the general American attitude, because I didn't actually understand it till I started living here. Yeah, it's the fact that boxing's gone global. And Americans are very reactionary and very scared of, like, we don't run shit anymore. But the problem is things just don't revolve around the States as they used to anymore. And
real quick to your point, Lennox, what happened is we fell asleep at the wheel. We haven't been running shit in boxing for a long time, actually. We only just recently woke up and noticed, if you get me, though. We're like, oh, wait a minute. What the fuck happened here? Wait, what do you mean we've only had one gold medalist in the last fucking 2 or 3 decades?
But that's not true as far as the pro game, though, Doc. Most of the belt holders aren't they Americans, bro?
No.
No. You go jump in a DeLorean and go back to the 80s or the 70s and try and talk about it and just try to tell people to imagine the British dominating the heavyweight scene. Unthinkable back then.
Honestly, look, and Lennox, Boxing Beats, all my UK guys, I fucking love you guys, right? But when Doc says that hit a nerve. Like, yo, dog, I never would have imagined in 1992 that America ain't got it, bro. We ain't got it. The Brits got it.
If someone came to you in 1992 and said the Brits are going to have 3 of the top 4 heavyweights, right? If not 4 of the top 4 heavyweights, you'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Get out of here!"
No, I understand it, but it's just weird because it's like the American boxing fan. It's almost like, I'm going to make a sort of a decent analogy, right? It's sort of like England invented football, soccer, right? And we haven't won a World Cup in Lord knows how long, yeah? And it's like us trying to hold on to like, oh yeah, we used to be the best. Well, you know what I mean? It's a global sport now. We embrace everyone else in the team. Do you know what I mean? France won a World Cup with a large...
Let me take it a step further, Lennox. It'd be like if you started getting your ass whooped by America at soccer. That's what it's like, bro. That's what it's like.
No, fam. Now that's something. You know what? That's something I can't see, fam. That's
Thank you very much. Now, welcome to my world, Lennox. This is
bro. I swear to God, if that happens, that's the 7th seal of the apocalypse.
Exactly. Exactly, bro.
That's mad. You know, when you put it that way, I kind of get it. But you know, it's not just that. It's not just about the champions. It's also the finances. You know what I mean? I'm not, you know what I mean? You could look at me as being biased or whatever, but I've lived in New York since 2000. But let's be honest, I've worked in boxing I started in the Mayweather era. Mayweather Canelo was my first camp that I shot. But honestly, I'll be frank, I didn't see the influx on the broadcast side of money. Not even in the Mayweather era was there as much money in boxing as there was in 2017 and 18.
I agree, because you have financiers. You have like, here's an example, right?
Let me finish. I'll let you take it. You have no idea how much Eddie landing in New York fucked the game up financially. Like, and I'm talking from a broadcast standpoint as a camera up and a post-production guy. Like, I could show you the invoices that come from Matchroom versus any other promoter. That money changed the game. Like, everyone had to level up. But go ahead, Julius.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I was alluding to, that the revenue streams now, right, are not limited to, you know, American broadcast networks. You have financiers in China, Saudi Arabia, obviously the UK, and it's better for the sport because there's more money available for the fighters. But the problem now is the attitudes. Fighters don't really want to fight. So some of them, I'm not going to say all of them, there's very dedicated guys out there. You know what I'm saying? Shakur Stevenson, Terence Crawford, the whole top-ranked stable. That's how fighters act. They want to fight, all right? Because that's your job, right? The PBC don't want to be fighters. They want to be reality TV stars and superstars. They don't want to be fighters. I'm telling you, they don't want to be fighters. Brother don't want to be a fighter. He wants to be a rapper.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah, they just look very coddled.
It's because Al is, I'll say it again, in my opinion, Al is extremely risk averse. And you got to remember, and this isn't an excuse, but it's because in my opinion, in life, there's a difference between causes and excuses. If you get me, you got to remember, you got to understand. Al's brother Bobby was a boxer, all right, and he got the shit beat out of him by Sugar Ray Leonard so bad that it ended his career. And he got to watch his brother end up a broken down guy with no fucking money because of boxing. That informs very strongly, in my opinion, how Al decides to maneuver his guys.
Well, that's why Al's back to destroy boxing. I've been prophesizing this for 45 years. Back to destroy boxing. Al didn't get into boxing because of the love of boxing. He came to destroy it. He's here to destroy.
He came to make money. He came to make money. I mean, I get what you're trying to say. Yeah.
I'll say this.
They gotta know how to promote. That's what they gotta do, man.
But you'll never see Al in my. I highly doubt you'll ever see Al take one of his top guys and put them on a Muhammad Ali schedule. where they're fighting 4 times a year against 2 and 3 killers.
Bro, it'll never happen.
Yeah,
right?
it'll never happen.
Listen, I've been sworn up and down.
Brave and run for office and win before you see Al Heyman do something like that. It'll never happen. It'll never.
Right. But you understand why,
Listen.
and I'm not saying it makes it all right. But the reason why is because he does, from his perspective, he don't want to see any his dudes end up like Muhammad Ali.
Very true.
Yeah,
Very true.
I get sworn up and down by the Haymanites, and I call them Haymanites because there is a cult that follows Al Heyman.
It is.
Yeah, that he shares his fighters. That is true to some extent, but he doesn't send his best. The best fighters he has on the stable are not being sent out into the woods to test their mettle. That we can all agree.
No, I mean, and that's why they're going flat, because boxing. Look. I agree 100% with everything you just said. And where boxing is different is boxing ain't like working at Burger King. You can't just go and go through the motions and get the job done. And getting the job done, it's not just winning. You can put on a performance and still get fights. Look at Derek Chisora. As long as you entertain the crowd and do your job, you got to try to win. That's your job. You got to try to win. That's what distinguishes this sport and this profession from everything else. And what Al has is a lot of guys who really don't want to do this. They don't want to get out there. They don't want to deal with no Crawfords out there. They don't. It's the most reward for the least risk. Whereas anybody who's good at a particular discipline, whether it's boxing or art or music, there's a part of you that's very competitive. There's going to be a part of you that wants to test yourself against everyone else out there that's like you. That's what his fighters are missing. I don't see that with top ranks fighters. I don't even see that with matchrooms fighters.
Real quick, Battle. Let me respond. The reason for that, in my opinion, is because of the inactivity. They end up like Keith Thurman, domesticated.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened? I see Keith now chatting shit about Errol. Is Errol's accident really that bad that Keith all of a sudden got the bollocks to think he can smash Errol?
He's all brave now. He's all brave now.
It's because the limelight is off of him and he wants another payday. So, he's saying dumb stuff like, I never got the go ahead from Al Heyman, whatever. Anyway,
look, man,
but Battle, that's probably the truth.
Look, this is the thing about
this been honestly the last few weeks.
Don't you do that, Doug.
My heart weeps for Keith Thurman because I thought so much better. Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest. All right. Look, I thought so much better of this guy in 2016. I thought he was like a real guy, and what he's become, it disturbs me, bro. It disturbs me to see a guy reduced to that.
Yeah, no, this is valid.
Man, what happened to Keith Thurman is his own fault, man.
Well, look how much time he had to sit around, go get married, wander around India.
Play golf for Antonio Barber. Like, come on, man.
There's the difference. Bob isn't gonna let Terence Crawford sit around that long to let something like that happen.
Yeah, you know what? I've been quite interested in a lot of the political things happening in the last.
That's an ode for Keith Thurman.
I've been meaning.
If you have that soundboard, like just play that boo sound every time Keith Thurman's voice is talking. Every time
Thurman is a tragedy, bro. He's a tragedy. I had to play the sad violin. It's a tragedy.
Well, you know what else? What else has been killing me? A lot of the politics. Yeah, like I've noticed I've got a theory. I'm not sure if I tweeted this to you that I think Oscar's is just gonna feed Ryan to the Lions, right? Because look at this. He's got 2 routes to go. We both thought he was gonna go the easy route. But if he fights Campbell, and let's just say he gets past Campbell, and he's got to go up against Devin Haney, I don't see him beating both those chaps.
No, I don't. No. I mean, look, and I talked about this in the last live. I'm not gonna dismiss Ryan's chances. I'm just saying from a nuts and bolts kind of way. I haven't seen what you do to offset what he does. statue at southpaw, good jab from the outside, good body attack from the inside, good set of legs, sturdy. And he's a southpaw, which makes it worse.
Yeah.
I ain't seen Ryan have to deal with nothing. Like,
Oh man,
What you talking about? Fonseca was an A-class opponent, bro.
Would beating
Hey,
Campbell?
Julius.
Hang on though, but would beating Campbell potentially be enough of an education to close the gap to where he could possibly beat Devin?
I wouldn't say that either. I wouldn't say that either.
I would say that.
I wouldn't say
Listen,
that.
listen. All I gotta say is, I think I showed you this video where I saw Ryan Garcia close his eyes, like when he was hitting the Cobra bag and the bag flicked back close to him, and he fully flinched. And once I saw that, I was like, nah, this man's not gonna, he's not got it. Like, if you can't, like, I saw this, and there's someone who fights, I was like, fam, that was a full hard flinch, fam. That means that you're gonna get hit by a punch that you don't see coming. And so I can't see him making past both. He might, you know what I mean? He might, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he might make it past Campbell. Might. And I'm not saying that I believe this.
But
if he beats
Lennox,
Campbell's,
hang on, I got to stop you there. But again, that's a big step up fight. We all agree, right? Campbell's a big step up, right?
Yes.
Those are the kind of fights that if the guy gets through him, he gets a lot better. He could very well improve a lot on that fight, could he not?
Yes.
I'll say, look at. I want to bring up Lopez Nakatani, right? Lopez Nakatani. I honestly believe that Lopez, having had that fight, put him in the right headspace for Comey. I honestly believe.
Yeah. Oh, Teofimo, you're talking about, right? Yeah. Because you got to go through that adversity to be reminded that, like, yo, dog, it ain't sweet out here. These guys ain't coming in here to lay down. So you have to want to win. It ain't just going to be, I'm going to win because I'm better. No, you have to want to win. You have to work for it. You have to want. You have to want to compete. You have to want to compete.
Yeah. But when you're Ugas and they tell you, you know what you can do? You can fight for a baby belt, right? You can fight for this baby belt.
I don't think it was that optional. I think Al just tells him, "Go here, fight this."
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
No, you're doing.
And
this.
I'm quite disappointed. I'm quite disappointed because
you're disappointed. You're disappointed. I swore down on a stack of Bibles that if anybody on the PBC side of things would capitalize on this opportunity, it would be Ugas. I swore up and down he would. And look at I got a chance to fight to be WBA regular champion. The lesser version of Manny's title, that's it? That's what you want? You're 34 years old. All right, bro. All right.
He's in his prime. Ring got killed. Come on now.
He's probably the same age as Manny.
Probably.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta ask. How the heck do you do that with your thumbnail?
What? What I do?
He has a full picture. I don't know how he does that.
What I did was I got the I got a lot of money, Battle. You know what I'm saying?
I'm talking about Doc, how he puts the full.
No, I'm trying to tell you. Look, I got a lot of cash, right? So what I did with a lot of cash was I paid up the year on StreamYard because I got a lot of cash. It's just cash. It's just money. That's all it is. So I bought the full. I'm talking shit. Now I did pay up the year. Though. I did pay up the year, and a part of that is you get to do stuff like that. Like you get to have watermarks, and you can use the thumbnail as a background. Like I could change it, but I wanted to have the logo for now. Because I got a lot of cash. It helps to have a lot of cash. Like me.
He's spending that Al Heyman money.
Yeah, exactly. I got that Al Heyman box money. I got the cash.
Julius, I was having I'm sorry. I was having a chuckle right now. I'm on the Heymanites fucking Twitter page, and I see the milk carton with Al Heyman's picture on it. It says Mr. PBC Boxing.
Bro,
Doc, how do you do that with your picture, Doc?
What do you mean?
Oh, he's talking about my. That's just how it comes out. I don't know. Okay.
No. When you go to StreamYard, right? If you look on the top right-hand corner where it would say edit, if you're conducting a stream, you go up to edit, and then you go up to, I believe it's a background. It also has an option for a watermark or something like that. It's a couple other things on there that you could play with, but that's essentially how. Now,
the only person I've seen with that. I've never seen anybody else.
He's
have
talking about my avatar, Julius.
Yeah.
The Ali, Young Cassius.
Yeah,
Young
he has a full square, and we got these little tiny little circles. Like,
this is apparently bothering you a bit.
Battle trips on the weirdest things sometimes.
Battle's angry that he can't do
man,
that.
I want a square. I don't want to be a circle. The disrespect, I don't get it. Like, I remember I was looking at one StreamYard where his whole picture was in the box. I was like, how did he do that? Like,
Battle's been mulling this over a long time now. You can tell.
Yeah, it's been eating.
You gotta tell me the secret, man. You can't keep it a secret for long. I'm gonna find out.
It's been eating.
All I'm saying, the point of this live, what I wanted to talk about in this live is how the American fight fans are the reason that the welterweight division is the way that it is. To me, it's the division is
more than that. It's a lack of fans because the big thing is the casual American sports fan don't follow the sport anymore.
That's true.
All right, that's why you get shit in boxing that would never fly in any other fucking sport. Like me and Mark were talking about it on one of Beats' hangouts. If you're the boxing guy in your circle of sports friends, right, and you try to break down to them, who's the lightweight champion of the world, their eyes are going to glaze over. Your friend's eyes will glaze over within like 30 seconds of that conversation. Because you're going to have to explain to them about multiple fucking belts. Then you're going to have to explain to them why they're not going to fight each other and all this. The average sports fan's like, fuck this. Yeah, because every other sport they watch has got, number one, it's on TV regularly. It's got a structured schedule, and the best have no choice but to face the best if they want to be declared the best.
I'm glad you said that because you said the casuals aren't really watching it. We're not. Well, at least boxing don't really have it.
That's the biggest change in the fan base between now and the 70s, 80s, 90s. Is in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the casual sports fan was much more interested.
I'm saying. Usually, I believe at least the casual fans don't know all this behind the scenes stuff because. If they're casual fans, because they don't pay.
Because Battle, as soon as they start hearing one of us talking about it, they go fuck this and pull the eject cord. They're out.
Let me finish. So when big fights will happen, I talk to a lot of casual fans of what they thought about the fight, and what it tells me is at least the people who come there on a big scale, like the biggest fights, like the Canelos, the Triple Gs, and what's another big pay-per-view fight we had in recent years? What, AJ versus Vlad? So here's the thing. A lot of the time, they usually don't know this stuff. I remember I went up to a guy and he was like, I was like, what do you think? I was like, what did you think about that Mayweather versus Conor fight? He's like, yeah, man, it looks crazy, man. That's going to be the best heavyweight fight in history. I'm like, heavyweight? I'm like, but they don't know this stuff. They really don't know this stuff. They just look on the surface level. And
because those are fans that are cruising along watching NFL, NBA, and once every 2 or 3 years now, it used to be more often. Nowadays, it's once every 2 or 3 years a fight will pop up that is big enough that even they will notice and they're going to pay attention.
That's who you're supposed to bring in. Those type of fans, because of course you can't just bring the hardcores in.
But the casual sports fan, I can only speak for the casual American sports fan. The casual American sports fan, I'll say it that way, they can't follow boxing because it's fucking maddening.
No. Hang on. That's what I'm saying. That's what we need to change. Of course, more fights, more promotional deals, more. How do you say it? Network.
How you gonna change it? How you gonna change it, Battle? Good luck. Let's hear what Lennox got to say.
Well, I'll say this for the one part. I've seen an uptick, in a lot more of mainstream following since ESPN got involved. But ESPN is doing a shit job of reporting on boxing. because they're
Yes, they are.
reporting their agenda instead of reporting straight down the middle. Now the difference, even for instance, I'll take Sky Sports, right? If you go on Sky Sports, they got their fighters, but they're not so blindly agenda driven. Like man on Sky Sports will big up Tyson Fury, and he's not a Sky Sports fighter. They'll big up a fight on whatever network. Like they try to at least, if they're not promoting the fight, you get the news straight down the middle. There's not going to be any lies of trying to make this guy seem like he's whatever.
Can I say this? I believe, and I am partial towards all things Eddie Hearn. If Eddie Hearn is there, then it's good. It's from God, and it's green. But I am going to say that I do notice how Sky Sports covers boxing. They cover boxing the way that we used to cover boxing, believe it or not. They cover it like a fucking sport. That's how they cover it. They talk about different elements and the different players in the sport. Whereas in America, they're trying to sell you a goddamn dream. They're trying to sell. I don't know what the hell Fox is doing. Well, we're supposed to act like Terence Crawford doesn't exist. Is that how frightening he is to you? That you excluded him from the conversation completely?
Cortana can't be talking about.
BT Sport does that as well over here.
Cortana can't be talked about unrivaled. She betrayed us and four. She ends up losing her mind.
Eddie Hearn is a promoter that was forged by the boxing gods. I'm going to say that.
No, but my point was the way the boxing's it, and I just take issue with ESPN. You know why? Because when I'm at Levels Barbershop on 125th, you know what we got on? Like they got on ESPN. Like in the urban community, that's where, if you're in a barbershop, you got Sports Center on. And the problem is this is an avenue where most people get this thing, right? Because do you understand how mad the mandem in the barbershop were after a while they got thrashed? Because ESPN had sold them this whole thing where, of course, the African American community got behind the black guy and he turned out to be a shit show. You know what I mean? When the problem is that if they had given him a clear picture of things, that wouldn't have been the case. You would have known this man for what he was, but you had these lot out here pushing an agenda, and
BT Sport did that as well.
Yeah, I know BT. Look, that's why I didn't use BT as an example. I use Sky because Sky's a bit more down the middle.
Yeah,
and I think that there's I'm sorry. I just think that these networks, they sort of have this casual vibe to it. Like it got to a point where Jalen Rose, an NBA star, was hyping up a fight between Lomachenko and Terence Crawford, who are 3 divisions far apart.
2.
Now, I don't know if this is because of. Go ahead.
Well, my biggest problem, if you got guys like what's his name, the loudmouth with the receding hairline, on First Take.
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, you got Stephen A. Smith, who's probably never thrown a punch in anger, chatting shit about boxing. Like, fam, do me a favor.
Dude.
There's a bunch
Have
of
you seen his uppercut?
There's tons of people like that.
Dude, that's a crazy uppercut.
But that's the mad thing. It's like that's a mainstream network that could report the sport as it is.
Look, I'm gonna give you the solution. Are you ready for it? Right? When the quality of the content suffers, the product suffers. So what boxing needs to do to return to the forefront of professional sports is up the quality. And there's only one way you're going to do that. That's fucking all-out war between the promoters. Imagine Top Rank versus PBC. The card. Top Rank versus PBC. Your best guy, my best guy. Your best guys, my best guys. If Americans don't like nothing, I mean, why do you think Warriors is such a popular fucking movie amongst Americans? Because it's about wars. It's about
that Tom Hardy movie.
Tom Hardy.
fam, battle, man, fam. Just sometimes you just gotta Google it, fam.
Wow, bro.
Did I get
I know the film he's talking about, but no, that's Warrior, not Warrior.
Come out and play.
Yo, wait! I just realized something. I can have, because I have so much cash. Because I have a lot of cash.
No, how do you do this? Bro? How do you do this, bro? How do you have 7 people in your StreamYard? This is not fair.
Oh my god! Because I have so much cash. Mark just let me know. I didn't even know I could do this. Mark, how are you?
Nah, bro.
This is economic inequality.
No. Let me explain this.
He's hacking StreamYard, bro.
No, he's not hacking. Hold on, let me explain it. This is reparations for Tanaka losing to Ioka later this week.
Oh, get the hell out of here! Get the hell out of here!
Here we go.
So I can have like 9 people on.
You can have 10.
Holy balls!
That's
You can
a
have yourself plus 9.
You just realized that?
I have entered the 2% of boxing, folks.
You know, I think you is. I think you in limbo, bro. I think this is what
I'm
this is,
in
bro.
the 2% battle. I'm very important. Okay, I got a lot of cash. I don't know what to do with it.
This is that Ultra Instinct from Dragon Ball Super. This is that Ultra Instinct, bro, from Dragon Ball Super, bro. When he started teleporting.
Hey, I didn't know that I could have. Yo, Mark is a crafty. How did you know that, Mark?
Because I know stuff.
So in other words, answer who you paid off to get this working, bro. Like, who did you paid Doc to do this with his freaking square box when we got circles?
I can't believe. Hold on a second.
Square, man. That's what we're
I still
playing
don't
here.
understand how Battle doesn't understand. It's that Doc's picture is at a max resolution and it literally just outgrafts StreamYard. That's how it works, bro.
Battle can't
No.
sleep. Oh God, how does he get the fucking square?
I think he put like some alchemy or some spells on StreamYard. That's what I think it is.
Man's got a real issue with that, Doc. You know what? I think I'm gonna make a StreamYard account.
I don't like how you did that,
StreamYard
Doc.
account just so I can have a full-size picture, just to fuck a man like that.
Because
Battle's genuinely distraught by this situation. Doc's pictures always done that. Do you remember when we had the little small pictures even on Hangouts, Battle? Yeah, Doc's came up like a full screen all the time. It's because the resolution, the resolution of the image outgrafts the space.
So how do I do that? Teach me your alchemy ways. Like, I want to know.
He can't. Doc just has a full max resolution.
It's the image because the image is from one of those coffee table books. With the...
Nah, see, I was playing with Ring Gaiku earlier, but I think
battle how he can do it. Honestly, this is how you do it. Get a picture. You're gonna need an actual picture, like in your hand, a magazine. Scan it with your printer as a BMP or a JPEG or whatever.
PNG. You want a PNG.
PNG, and then it'll be full. It'll be huge. It'll be the thumbnail will be the same size as everything else, but the image itself will actually be huge, very huge. I only know that because I draw, and that's what happens when you draw. When you switch from fucking traditional to digital, happens all the time. But that's how you can do it. That's how you can do it.
Yeah, because I'm sick of docking this big box. You know?
You got big box envy, man.
What is this battle? Is this geometric inequality? I'm confused.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, bro. I'm pointing you to the forefront. Stop, man. You're not getting away with this. Not
small picture
second.
Energy.
And then I'm going to learn how to put 7 people in my StreamYard like Ring IQ did.
Battle, you just made my day, bro. My day's going to be awesome now.
I'm going to be Super Saiyan God after this is done, bro.
Well, look, back to the American fight fans and why American boxing is where it is. I honestly believe the quality of the content has suffered a bit as far as Americans are concerned. It has suffered a bit. They're not getting an organized sport that's structured anymore. It's all convoluted. And Americans have short attention spans. People in general have short attention spans. But they're not getting the best versus the best, and that much is obvious. Because if you don't understand nothing else, you will understand that. They're not getting the best versus the best. There's no reason for them to pay attention. Who the hell wants to see Danny Garcia versus Ivan Redkach? Who the hell has wanted to see Gervonta Davis versus the last 2 years of opponents? Who the hell were those guys?
Not to mention every single other sport, they know the playoffs are going to happen at this point, and then we're going to have the finals, and we'll have a champion. Whereas in boxing, we've got to sit around hoping these fights happen.
Yes.
Well, if you look at it this way, like right now, everyone else except I guess they're no longer the premier American promotion, but like we're excited about August, and who are we excited about in August? All the international fights.
Eddie motherfucking Hearns, bro. He gonna give Jessica McCaskill versus Cillian Breakus, Katie Taylor versus Delphine Pasuntu, Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin. Eddie motherfucking Hearns. A promoter.
Oh, Mark's here. Mark, remember that conversation we had with Beats about trying to talk to our casual sports fan friends about boxing?
Yeah, I remember I made a video on it, and I confused everybody at how difficult boxing is to follow.
Can you, if you could break that down for the fellas, please?
Oh God.
Just like the lightweight thing. Remember we did the lightweight division as an example?
Yeah.
All right,
okay.
If your friend, I'm your friend. I come up to you. Mark, who's the lightweight champion?
There's 3. Vasily Lomachenko has 2 of the belts. Teofimo Lopez has another, and Devin Haney has another.
Oh, okay. And when are these guys going to fight each other so we end up with a champion? When are the playoffs happening?
Well, there is no playoffs. Teofimo and Lomachenko have been in negotiations for a fight pretty much since pre-Comey. If they had won the Comey fight on Teofimo's side, they'd end up fighting for the title. And yeah, it's been 9 months, and we still haven't gotten any further on that one.
You see, this is in most sports fans that are just sports fans. They're already, they're like I said, their eyes are glazing over. They're done.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. I had to explain it to my wife, right?
Poor woman.
No, but it worked when I explained it to her. Think of the undisputed championship at any given weight class, like the World Series, because that's what that would be. This is for all the marbles. Most of the time, boxing is not like that. Boxing is divided. You can have 4 different champions. And in order for you to know who the best one is, they got to fight each other. So anything outside of that is not a big deal. And with
it was a dude who told me, he was like, yeah, bro, I want to see Canelo and Charlo fight since Charlo's the WBC champion. I'm like, well, at the time he was the franchise champion. Like, what the heck is that?
Yo, that's one of the things.
It's unheard of.
Oh, fam, the franchise situation. Nothing pisses me off more than that.
Yeah. Do you think that helps with the casual fan front? Because I don't think so. That's just going to make it even more. It's more barriers to the average sports fan getting interested.
That franchise championship is single-handedly the most complicated thing to explain in existence. I'm not talking just boxing. It's harder to explain than string theory. It is hard to explain.
Phil I cannot really rationalize it perfectly.
You can explain loss before you can explain.
No, it's not hard to explain. The WBC wants to stay in the business of certain fighters, so they came up with a way where they can do that, and they don't step on the fighters' toes, because that's all it is. That's
they
literally
they can stay a champion even if they lose.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. No, did they stay a champion, or did they stay or is it
at the WBC's discretion? I don't know. I don't. Well, that's nitpicking words. Imagine, Julius, if the NFL decided we're going to make the New England Patriots our franchise champions.
And no matter what,
that sounds so stupid.
Even if you beat them in the Super Bowl, they're still the franchise champion. Could you imagine?
They're gonna bring out a separate trophy. Like once the Super Bowl is over, they'll be like, "Hey, here's the franchise trophy." Like, wait a minute.
NFL fans would riot.
Well, to be quite honest, college football had the same problem. You know that, right? College football had the same problems. You had the AP poll, and then you had the coaches poll.
Yeah, and what were fans? And hang on, but what have fans of college football been? What were they screaming for since the '80s? A playoff system.
Playoff. Yeah.
It was
And he got
always
it.
a problem. The fans, nobody liked it. All right, there was nobody going, "Oh, no one wants to play out." It was pushed for and pushed for and pushed for, and incrementally, eventually they got it because that's the way the cookie crumbles. Boxing fans, we don't incrementally get anything. If anything, things incrementally get worse with franchise champions, and baby belts, and all
We
this.
get the WBA being the WBA.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question real fast?
Yeah.
How can a non-profit organization call itself a franchise?
See, this is why, like,
Whoa! Hang on. Wait, I have a question.
The last 24 hours you have smoked a lot of weed, haven't you? Just tell the truth. You smoked a lot of weed.
Who, me? Yes.
Mark.
Yes. What's up? How's it going?
That is $100 million question if I ever heard it. The WBC is a nonprofit. So what the hell
are you? I don't know how that's gone under my radar. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, they're a non-profit organization. So how's a non-profit organization a franchise? That's literally a contradiction.
They launder money, bro. They doing something.
There's
they're a non-profit organization.
Thank you. There's nothing.
They own an Arby's somewhere or something.
Hang on,
They probably own an Arby's, bro. I guess.
When did they become a 501c?
Yeah. They own a Chipotle or something.
Well, look.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna get some food. I'm gonna drop off this guy.
There's a guy that comments under every video, right? His name is Juan Empower, and nothing against him because he's a good guy. He watches the videos, which is the most I can ask him to do. But he's so adamant that the WBC is a nonprofit organization, and it took Mark and his weed to make me realize.
Oh my god!
It took Mark and all his fucking weed to make me realize, like, wait a minute, how the hell is a nonprofit got a franchise champion? Is this McDonald's or is this Salvation Army?
I'm stuck on how the fuck how does anybody buy for a second that the WBC is nonprofit?
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
Who's really on weed is Doc.
Are they giving the sanctioning fees to charity?
I guess.
Doc, I figured out the secret. We're all on weed, and we just like have like inflated sense of your picture.
That's right.
And that's what it is. You laced it.
Exactly. It's a circle. You're just
you laced our blunts with WD-40.
Lennox Battle's not going to let it go. I know Battle. He's not going to let it go.
He laced our blunts with WD-40. Something like that.
Battle, if you keep bringing
hang on. There's a question I got. Yeah, when did they become a 501c? Because a few years ago, well, maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, they were almost bankrupt because they lost a lawsuit.
Yeah, the Raggiano. Oh God, I fuck up his name all the time. I'm the butcher.
Oh,
yeah, the whole shit with
Rocky Gianni.
Yeah.
You make fun of him, you know.
You know that Austin Trout's very close to doing that with the WBO. Well, at least I shouldn't exaggerate. He got an appeal to be heard. That doesn't mean he's going to win the case. That really doesn't mean that. But he, his lawsuit with the WBO, I thought that it died down. I thought that it went away. He filed an appeal to be heard, and he's going to be heard. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, to be honest.
What's the gist of that? What's he going after them for?
He's going after them because they basically removed him from their rank standings without justifiable cause. That's his problem. The reason I think he's going to lose is because I'm pretty sure that in their bylaws, they reserve the right to do that. I'm pretty sure, because that's how all these alphabets protect themselves.
Who's this, the WBO?
WBO. There's an article up on it about it on Boxing Scene right now.
Yeah, they're able to do that because it comes down to a select committee panel, and based off of what they feel you've been doing within the organization, they can either keep you there or they can remove you by their own standings.
Yeah, and you sign on for that. You literally you sign on for that. You empower them. If you decide to be ranked by them and pay sanctioning fees to achieve a rank standing, you're subject to those bylaws. So they are empowered. You are empowering them to do that, which is why my solution was don't fuck with them. If you don't like the WBC and you don't like what they've been doing to Dillian White, don't patronize them because they're not a nonprofit. They get money. Don't patronize.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of
I can't remember which animated movie it was, but it was like, "Hey man, you can't keep doing this to me." He said, "What do you mean? It's in the fine print." And he'd be like, "Okay, it is, isn't it?" And he's like, "Okay," so they'll do something else. He'd be like, "Wait a minute, it's in the fine print," and then they'll bring out like a big even magnifying glass, and it's in the fine print.
That's literally what it is, though. I don't think that. I honestly believe, and I don't mean this like as a slight at the fighters, but I honestly believe that they don't know what's in the fine print. That the WBO, the WBC, they reserve the right to do this. They can pretty much do what they want. So your only alternative is to not patronize them. Go the IBF route. You'll get your shot. You'll get it. They'll make sure you get it. But as far as the WBO and the WBC, no, it's the same fucking thing. And the WBA. And the WBA.
Wait a minute. Did you just say in the WBA, in the WBA?
Yeah.
I said it 2 times because the WBA, there's like 4 WBA belts. So I said like 2.
He's being modest there with the 4.
The super duper, the interim, the super.
The double dog there belt. All kinds of belts. Double dog there, super dog there, super quadruple dog there.
The WBA always been crazy.
I can't keep track of what's what, man. These belts, but at least none of them are as infuriating as the franchise, fam. I'm sorry, the franchise.
I think the WBA's situation at heavyweight is a lot more ridiculous than the franchise belt. You got 2 guys, they're champions. They are inactive fighters. They haven't fought in one going on 2 years, but they're titleists. They're fucking titleists.
What about the IBO?
I bet WBA's probably still got Frezakendo ranked. I agree with Ring. They're the worst.
That's and Frez hasn't fought in what, 6 years?
he's still got a title shot he could probably cash in if he wanted.
I'm pretty sure Frez isn't ranked anymore.
No, he's not ranked, but he's
finally
legally because of their legal battle, because of some shit from a long time ago, some legal battle. He still has dibs to.
Oh shit, bro! He's 15. He's still 15.
Wow.
So you cannot fight for 6 fucking years.
And you're top 20.
Well,
that's nothing. There was a dude who was deceased.
like,
I can't remember his name, but there was a dude who was deceased for 10 years who was in the fucking rankings with the WBA.
Bro, you can be dead.
Wow.
And as far as the WBA is concerned, you can be dead and still be.
It's like this. It's almost like let's just say, for example, for purposes, let's just say somebody like Winky Wright came out of retirement, like, yeah, I'm gonna fight again. They'd be like, hook me up there with Makai. They're like, nah, bro, you still rank number 5. You about to fight Jamil Charlo.
No, but to be fair, we can't call bullshit on the WBA for that, because Mauricio Sulaiman actually said himself that if Mike Tyson comes back to fight pro, we'll rank him in the WBC rankings.
Yeah, that's what I was about to allude to. That he literally said that if Mike decides to come back, we're not going to stand in the way of him becoming a champion. We'll rank him. Sick shit, man. Sick shit.
Sick.
Totally non-profit.
Yeah.
Right?
Have a look, by the way, at the WBC. Julius, have a look at the WBC's heavyweight rankings, right? If he doesn't fight the champion, look who he's got to fight. Hergovich, Dubois, Parker, Rivas.
You think if one of those YouTubers came back for like a fight deal, they would rank him?
Oh yeah, they're all about the same. I mean, look,
they're giving them medals.
The sad part about boxing, and I'm not even joking, it's the deadliest sport in the world, right? And it doesn't get anywhere near the respect it should. You know, being a champion don't mean what it should mean. These sanctioning bodies don't care about these fighters. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. They don't care about these fighters. It's a dangerous enough job that, you could die doing it. You could literally die boxing, but it gets shitty treatment from the fans, shitty treatment from the media, shitty treatment from the people that are supposed to govern it. It's a tragedy, bro. It's a fucking tragedy.
It's a shit show. Absolutely.
Yeah, you sound like Omar from Everybody Hates Chris. Trash.
Yeah,
like we've been going on and on about how we could possibly change it, but unless we would need a lot of backing, a lot of money for it to change the sport.
Well, somebody's got a ringtone, but the problem there's a fundamental problem battle at the heart of that. It's basically it's got to do with economics. People in America, they don't know how to not fucking pay for shit that isn't essential if it's overpriced. That's why people pay for pay-per-views that are fucking $100.
Yeah.
Like the way a free market economy is supposed to work, it's incumbent upon the consumer that if something is, in their view, overpriced and it's non-essential, don't fucking pay for it.
Well, here's the thing, Doc.
You have to withhold your money so the price comes down to where it's supposed to be.
And Doc, here's the thing, though. It's so funny. We had a conversation about. I think it was you. It was me. I think it was you. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Go ahead. I'm just waiting.
But it was you. It was me. It was Unrivaled. It was who else? What's the British guy name?
What were we talking about?
We were talking about like tournament. Like we should have a tournament style boxing thing. And you remember that conversation? That was like what, 2-3 years ago? We had that conversation.
Probably,
bro. Like what's that? You remember the British guy who used to come on there? Like who?
Are you talking about Edge?
No. The other guy who has the glasses and like his thumbnail. Oh my gosh! Like he's like the funniest one. I forget his name. Oh my god.
Shit.
But we had that conversation like what, almost 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, I don't remember this battle.
Well, it was like 2 to 3 years ago, and it's so funny how time flies and boxing is just getting worse and worse. We were talking about. You don't remember we had that tournament style. We said that boxing should have a tournament style of boxing. And it should be based on a point system.
I've never had this conversation. So you were talking about other people, not me.
No. That was you. I remember.
No, 100%. That wasn't me.
Okay. Well, I could. I'm telling you, it was you, Omar. It was you.
No, hold on, Doc. I'm gonna prove to him it wasn't, right? Battle. Do you want to know how I know it wasn't me? Because the person with glasses, his name's Raf, right?
No.
Okay.
Not him.
He's talking about someone else.
Okay.
I think
Anyway, did you have a point there?
But I'm saying that it's like time has flown like so fast, and boxing has not gotten any better. We was talking about how the ways we could change the sport, and I remember us having that conversation. I think EJ was on there too, but it's not
part of the reason time flies in boxing is because these guys fight once every 2 years.
It's so upsetting. It's so upsetting. It's very upsetting.
All I'm gonna say is the World Boxing Super Series, I would say, is an ideal scenario for the boxers, for the boxing fans. For what it's worth, it's a good idea, but it's been riddled with problems. But I would like to see more of that. I want to see more tournaments in boxing. That's what I want to see. I want it to be more like the Olympics.
Yeah,
Dwayne, that was his name.
Okay,
it was Dwayne.
I remember. Yeah. The whole reason I bought my DAZN subscription was so I wouldn't have to fucking hunt around for the World Boxing Super Series fights. Yeah, the YouTube channel was blocked over here in America.
Yeah,
and that right there was worth my price of admission. And not for nothing, the cruiserweights have been killing it for the last 3 years.
That's what I was alluding to. If it wasn't for the World Boxing Super Series right now, understand that this is still not a big scale. It's a relatively small scale, but it worked because it did shell out a superstar, in a manner of speaking. Usyk is more known than any cruiserweight of the last, I'd say, 10 years. He's more known, more or less. The only other cruiserweight I could think of that had the same kind of accord that he had was David Haye in recent memory, But that's because he went up to the heavyweight division. If he had stayed a cruiserweight, you got to wonder if he would have become as known as he did, because the cruiserweight division's always been a forgotten division. If people know Usyk now, it's because of the World Boxing Super Series and what he did there. And that's beneficial to the fighter, but it's also beneficial to the fans because most of the time people don't even watch cruiserweights. That portion of the tournament was sensational. Even in the second season, that melee with Robert Byrd at the Breedis versus Glovacki fight, sensational, made for TV stuff. I want to see,
and there's a lot of those other fighters, to your point, that even like fans like us know about that we might not have known about, like Dorticos, Bradis, et cetera, et cetera.
I would like the tournament. I would like to see the tournament in the flyweight division between Delakian and Martinez and Methylane. There's lots of divisions that could use that tournament because
Inui benefited a lot from that too. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, he did. But funny enough,
that whole tournament was actually really good, in my opinion. There was
Julius,
you
go ahead, Mark.
You know that vacant WBO that Tanaka vacated, yeah? You know that's up for grabs August 21st? Junto Nakatani's fighting for it.
What I want to know right now, because this is important, is Tanaka's next fight going to be Ioka? Because if it's not, he's got to come off my list.
From what's being reported, yeah, they're in negotiation. That fight's quite easy to make because they're actually on the same TV network.
Yeah.
So they are actually looking to make that. It will either be in September or Japanese New Year. It's one of the outsiders.
All right. So long as that's the next fight, Tanaka's gonna hold that spot on my list. He's at number 10 on my list. As long as that's the next fight, he's gonna be on there until that fight comes off. If the next fight is anybody fucking else, he's got to come off. Those are my rules.
What about Callum Smith? What should he do?
Callum,
no one gives a fuck.
Like we're talking about Jose Ramirez, we're talking about Josh Taylor, we're talking about Artur Beterbiev. These are guys we're talking about.
Well, it's not like 168 is a division where it's just that much politics comparative to like welterweight and heavyweight.
No one.
No, there is.
Fuck.
I don't
about
know.
168 or just Callum Smith, because I don't care about Callum Smith, but I'm just saying.
Bro. Look. Nobody gives. And I hate to say it because I actually like this division. I actually like the super middleweight division, but nobody gives a fuck about it because they're not going to fight. Callum should be beating down Billy's door. Billy should be beating down Callum's door. Caleb and David, they're not going to fight. We've already said they're not going to fight anytime.
That's frustrating.
That's frustrating. It's a great weight class. I honestly think, it's a great weight class. But these guys, they ain't fighting. So fuck them. Fuck them.
It's true. Fuck them. Like, just let's put it on the face of it. Very simple, yeah? David and Caleb not fighting, right? Caleb, apparently he needs like a 14-week training camp to fight Canelo, right? David never mentioned Canelo.
Never.
Billy Joe pulls out of a fight with Canelo. Billy Joe, he's not talking about Callum Smith. Callum Smith apparently needs 9 million quid to fight against fucking random ass shit guy fighters and not even world champions. So, like, that division at this stage is pointless. I fucked a lot of them.
Now, let me answer this question from Huang. The only reason he's there, Huang, and understand that I'm not happy about it. Understand, I don't like Leo. I don't like Leo. But the rules are the rules, and Leo is a 4-division champion. He did beat Victor Terrazas. He did beat Carl Frampton, won his belt back. He beat 2 active reigning world champions, and he's a 4-division champion. So he does have an argument based on the rules to be ranked. I would love to remove him, bro. I've been waiting for him to just go away.
Tell us how you really feel, Julius.
Yeah, like I don't want him. I get mad when I look at the list and see him there. But the rules are the rules, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. So
could he be replaced? Is the question.
Good old Santa Duck.
If somebody comes along who has a strong enough argument to bump him off, then yes, he can be replaced. But right now, it hasn't happened. He's a 4-division champion. He only has 1 loss, and he's defeated 2 active reigning champions. So
what is he like, number 7?
I believe he's number 7. It's Leo, it's Juan, and then it's Kosei. So I believe Leo's number 8.
Well, I think my first 5 is you got Pacquiao, you got Crawford, you got Canelo, you got anyway, you got maybe Spence.
Lomachenko is
already on my list. And he's already on.
Lomachenko. That's 6 spots, and then Am I missing somebody? Vosdick, I guess. Oh, no, not
As
Vosdick.
far
Oh,
as- as far
Vosdick. I said his name wrong. Beterbiev. Sorry.
Let's say by some chance, right? And this isn't going to happen, but let's say by some chance Ioka beats Tanaka, right? Tanaka gets bumped off the list. Ioka might move up a spot. He might. In all likelihood, he will.
Ioka's pretty high on your list, isn't he?
I think he's 7. He's 7 behind Lomachenko.
I think I did. Go ahead.
Now, there's going to be a vacancy. The vacancy, there's a lot of guys that have an honorable mention. Artur Beterbiev, Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez, MJ Akhmadaliev. Demetrius, nah. I mean, he's the 2 division
Does Errol have? Does Errol?
Errol also is in the running. So it's going to come down to looking at those unified champions and looking at their bodies of work and seeing who has the best argument.
Wait. I didn't hear you. I think my phone was. What were you saying? What were you saying about the runner-up? You said
it's going to come down to Artur Beterbiev, unified champion, Josh Taylor, unified champion, Jose Ramirez, unified champion, Errol Spence, unified champion, MJ Akhmadaliev, unified champion. It's going to be between those 5 guys because they're all unified champions. And I'm going to look at their resumes, compare them against each other. Whoever has the best one gets Kosei's spot if Kosei loses. But I know in my spirit and in my foot that I'm not going to have to do that because Kosei.
I'm really.
How much did you look on this? What's the bet again? Is it 20 quid?
You want in on this action is what you're saying, Lennox.
No, I'm just asking, yeah?
Yeah, it's only...
What's the bet, Mark? $20?
It's only $20. I mean, at this stage, no, hold on a second. I've literally put in comments to add up to $35 that Ioka beat Tanaka onto your fucking channel.
Like, you got $35 that says Ioka don't go to this. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Man, yeah, y'all passionate about this. I like to see this.
Well,
I wish somebody would show this. I wish somebody would tell me. Because I haven't met at least enough fans that's going to be. I'm real big on the Roman Gonzalez in the what's the name fight? What's bro name? Estrada. I haven't met enough fans that's going to be like Estrada going to beat Gonzalez, even though a lot of people tell me.
It's the circumstances, bro. Estrada's coming off the surgery, over a year of inactivity. So the fight, it's like I don't knock nobody that thinks Estrada could win. I just don't like the way that looks. That's what I'm saying. You haven't fought.
I forgot.
You haven't fought nobody since Beeman. And
let's be real, right? Let's be real, and we'll be honest about this. Sorry to the Estrada fans, but the only reason he even beat Rungvisai is because Rungvisai for the first 8 rounds was a fucking inbred.
Yeah.
Oh boy! Don't you tell that to no Estrada fans, man? Don't you go ahead and do that?
It's true though.
But based on the way those two looked against Rungvisai, I can understand why everybody's thinking Estrada.
I mean, here's the thing though. Roman Gonzalez didn't look bad the first fight. It was messy.
He got the crap beat out of him, I thought.
Wait,
the first fight, bro.
No,
the first fight. That was close.
The first fight, I thought he won. He just got headbutted a lot. It was a messy fight. I think we discussed this like last week.
Oh, I've had that. I remember the night it happened, and freaking Naoto was pissed. He was like, "Fuck that, fucking headbutts, blah blah blah." Dude, it's a boxing fight. Shit happens.
Yeah, it was messy. I'd say if anything, he got beat up the second fight.
I thought he got bullied in both and beat up in both fights. Just he got knocked the fuck out.
Did you see Rung Visai holding on him like the entire 11th and 12th round? That's all he would do is hold. But yeah.
Look, we're losing sight of what Julius was talking about. He was talking about when Ioka beats Tanaka.
No, I wouldn't.
Tanaka's gonna get hold on. Tanaka's gonna get bumped off of his list.
That's just hypothetically speaking. Hypothetically.
We've done a great job.
We know what you meant, Ring IQ. We know what you meant.
No. You know what? If Tanaka beats Ioka, they're both ranked on my list. If Tanaka beats Ioka gets bumped off. That's going to leave a vacant slot open. So it's going to be the same situation to where I got to decide between Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, Errol Spence, MJ Akhmadaliev, or to a better beef. Whatever's going on around that time, if they pick up a third title, whatever's going on, it's going to be
out of respect. Immediately, I want you to remove Akhmadaliev from that conversation. One win over Danny Roman to pick up 2 belts doesn't put you ahead of other guys who actually unify titles.
That's fair, and that's fair. I only mention him because, it's going to come down to a unified champion. If by some chance, and I'm not holding my breath at all, Ray Vargas were to fight him, right? Then, he'd have a better argument. Beating Ray.
Julius, you got Ioka at number 7, right?
Yeah, I got Ioka at number 7.
So if Tanaka beats him, does he move up to like number 8, or does he stay in like the 9th position? And someone comes
I thought Leo was 7.
No. If Tanaka, who's at number 10, beats Ioka, who's number 7, he hopscotches over Juan, over Leo, because he'd be a 4-division champion like Leo, but he's literally making history. He'd be the fastest 4-division champion in the history of boxing.
I got a question for you.
That's male or female, by the way. I'm pretty sure.
Hang on real quick. I got a question about your rating system that you use, Julius. Do you factor in participation in a tournament? For example, the World Boxing Super Series.
In a manner of speaking, right? Time. What's not immediately obvious about how the list works is time. A guy like Usyk climbed very high because of the succession of fights that he had. That's as a result of being in a tournament that you fought champion after champion. You understand?
Yep.
It's in there, but it's not immediately apparent because obviously everybody's not in a tournament. But even if you're not in a tournament, let's say your succession of fights is champion after champion after champion, you're going to climb up relatively quickly.
We can immediately talk about who we can't put on our list, because I think Mark just expressed, the reason he didn't put one guy in there is because, he beat a guy with 2 belts. And I'm pretty sure that's the same reason why you didn't put Jason Rosario on your list. So,
wait a minute. Yeah, I forgot about Jason. But if Jason has the Charlo fight, it's the same principle for Jason that it is for Artur, that it is for MJ.
Yeah, I get it. And that's why I don't put Usyk on my list, because, he's a heavyweight, so.
Usyk's not on mine. Yeah, Usyk's not it's a rule on mine. You have to have a title because that represents where you are in your weight class. You were king shit at cruiserweight, and you were on my list when you were a cruiserweight. Now you're a heavyweight, and it's a different ball game, and we don't know where you are. If he becomes a champion,
if Usyk becomes a champion at heavyweight, do you put him pound for pound again?
Yes, because he's not a career.
Hang on. I got a question. Why? This is just a question. I'm curious, just curiosity. I don't care. Why do you include heavyweights? Because traditionally, pound for pound excludes.
No, Doc, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to wait. Hold on, Doc.
I thought he was.
Doc, continue with your traditional comment. I want to hear it for a second.
I was just going to say, from my experience, traditionally the pound for pound excludes heavyweights.
Yeah. Do you remember? Does anybody here know what the very first ever pound for pound matchup ever talked about was?
Was it a guy named John?
No.
I remember hearing about a heavyweight.
It was a guy named Walker. Mickey
Walker?
No, a guy named Walker. Walker Smith. Walker Smith Jr.
Yes.
Anybody know who he is?
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Do you know who he was fighting against in this mythical pound for pound matchup? Joe Lewis, who was a heavyweight. The very first point of pound for pound, that entire idea is to be able to compare all weight divisions to one another, so heavyweights can actually be included. Hold on. There is a difference. Hold on. There is a difference between pound for pound itself, right? The actual pound for pound conversation and the origins, and the very first list in '68. There is a very big difference between the two.
What I'm saying is. The heavyweight's superiority is already implied because in a real life setting, the heavyweight would have the edge. The purpose of the list is to find a smaller fighter who would stand a chance against that heavyweight. So there's no need to rate the heavyweight. The reason
Exactly.
the reason that Usyk would qualify is because he's not a career heavyweight. Any fighter, and this is why I look at Roy the way I look at Roy. Any fighter,
I see that.
Any fighter that manages to go from any other division to the heavyweight division is the physical manifestation of what a pound-for-pound fighter is, because that's the point. Do you have the skills, the lock horns with the heavyweights? That if you were the same size as them, what's it going to come down to? It's not going to come down to size, since we've evened that playing field. It's going to come down to skill. So any fighter like a Usyk, for example, that, okay, you went from cruiserweight to heavyweight, you're literally the physical representation of what a pound-for-pound fighter is supposed to be if you win. And I don't know that that's going to happen for Usyk, because I didn't like how he's eating those shots from Chaz Witherspoon. I'm being honest. His whole body.
Okay. So what you're saying is, if you started at a weight class below heavyweight and you move up to heavyweight, you can still be involved in. From your perspective, you can still be involved in the list. Okay. So for example, in the 80s, you wouldn't have had Larry Holmes on there, but you would have had Michael Spinks after beating Holmes.
Yes.
Just to clarify. Okay.
That's a very strong argument. How could we? Hang on. I wasn't saying that to make an argument. I was just clarifying, making sure that I got what you're doing.
Or like Chris Bird moving up and beating people like a Holyfield or Tua. But
Look, I'm gonna ask you guys a question, right? Do y'all know when the first annual rankings of pound for pound was released by Ring Magazine? Do y'all know what year it was? Does anyone?
You just told us,
I'm guessing it was 2017.
No, the first annual rankings was 19. Shut up, Mal, for a second. It was 19.
What you said the first?
Just stop. The first. You're stuttering. Calm down.
I'm not stuttering. I was
Let me
asking
go.
a simple question.
Let me go. 1989.
Have you been drinking, Mark?
No, you just won't shut up. Let me speak.
Okay, I mean,
it was 1989. Listen, do you know who pound for pound number one was?
Didn't they put Mike on it?
It was
Mike.
Look, see, this is the thing, Mark, understand, right? This is where I'm coming from. I know that I've known for years that Ring Magazine kept a pound for pound list. You got to understand where I'm coming from. For years, I didn't entertain the pound for pound conversation because I thought that their list didn't make sense to me. And I always knew that in the back of my brain. Only in recent years did I decide to start entertaining the pound for pound conversation, but I made a list of my own because their list doesn't make sense to me. And
I understand that, right? I understand that. But for everybody to say, right, heavyweights can't be included, that's not the criteria. It's nonsense when the very first pound for pounds that ever came up always included heavyweights. And the problem with it is Ring Magazine created pound for pound.
Well, I'll say
people saying Ring Magazine.
All I know is 99.9% of the conversations I've ever had about pound for pound, somebody at some point mentions heavyweights or
excludes heavyweights. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think it should be that way.
As for Ring Magazine, I'll be the first to tell you I don't know shit about shit when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, and I think it should.
They didn't invent pound for pound. They didn't invent pound for well. They kept their list. You're right about that. And their list was widely accepted. You're right about that, Mark, that most people, when they want to talk about pound for pound, they are thinking of Ring Magazine. But the pound for pound conversation was around before that. And it was actually around before Sugar Ray Robinson. If you can
yes, it was. It was created by Nat Fleischer in 1923 in Ring Magazine.
Actually, before that, it was before Ring was made.
It wasn't. No, hold on. It wasn't pound for pound. It wasn't pound for pound. It wasn't the pound for pound thing. I know what you're talking about, but it wasn't pound for pound.
Then what was it?
It was weight for weight, which is different to pound for pound.
That's basically the same thing.
That sounds like some semantics, bro.
That sounds like pound for pound.
People can bring up semantics, but if semantics are an argument, they're normally factual.
Look, all right, look, you guys, I gotta fucking go. I gotta go to work. This is great. Mark, Tanaka's gonna beat Ioka, but we can still be friends. All right, you guys, drink a lot of water, eat a lot of fruit, stay healthy. PBC ain't shit. That's all.
As always, peace. Ioka beats Tanaka. Peace.
Cheers, brother.